You're listening to the Hour of the Time, and I'm Pooh.
And I'm Doyle.
And I'm William Cooper.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
All right, Pooh.
Isn't that great, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, yeah.
That's from the days of radio drama. Normally, there would be a storyline that what you've been listening to would back up. You know, something like... remember the old serials in the Spider-Woman?
Mm-hmm.
And... Flash Gordon and all of those people. That's the kind of music you used to hear behind those.
And the shadow.
The shadow. Only the shadow knows. Those were the days of radio. I'd like to... we got to do something to bring some of that back. I mean, we really do.
Yeah, we do.
And, you know, a lot of people sometimes play the old radio dramas, but why can't we put together some modern radio dramas?
I think it'd be good. Get the family back around the radio and away from the TV.
Yeah. Something like, I don't know. It could be anything.
It could be anything nowadays. I did all sorts of stuff.
It really could. Ladies and gentlemen, we did listen to Stan Deyo and Art Bell last night.
Oh.
And I must tell you, I am absolutely ashamed that I even know the man after some of the things that he said that were just outright untruths. And I've known Stan Deyo for many years. And the story he told last night about his expulsion from the Air Force Academy and where he went afterwards and what he did and all that stuff is a total brand new fabrication that he's never told before. And it's not because he was afraid to tell it or didn't want to tell it. It's because it never happened. Mm-hmm. I've known this man for years, and I know what happened. He's told me over and over and over again. And I've checked it out. And so I know what happened. And last night, he just flat made up a story and told it to the world of the Art Bell show.
Art Bell even said, you never told me that before.
Yeah, Art Bell noticed it too. He said, I never heard this story. You never told me that before. You've told me, Even Art Bell knew that there was something wrong with that story. Well, that gives Art Bell a little more credit than he had before. But Stan, I wish you hadn't have done that. I really, really do. I don't know why you did it, but I wish you hadn't have done it. And you've really shot yourself in the foot, I got to tell you. Mm-hmm. Folks, I was watching Crossfire. I haven't been feeling too good today. I feel like I don't have any energy. I mean, I'm not sick or anything. I just don't feel like I have any energy at all. I feel like I've been drained. And I think, all of this stuff that's going on everywhere is just, I have more reports on what's going on around this country and the world than anybody outside of the actual Central Intelligence Agency and the Office of Naval Intelligence and Army G2 and all of those people. And I think the reason that I just feel drained of energy is because I'm seeing a terrible picture beginning to emerge. I'm seeing literally the destruction of our Republican form of government. I am witnessing probably, and you are too, whether you know it or not, the last days of the United States of America.
I agree.
And now on the news today, they were asking if Alan Greenspan was going to be able to save the global economy. Are you listening to me, folks, what I'm telling you? Remember last night I made the statement there's going to be a global Federal Reserve Board? You're seeing, I know you don't see it, I see it, and I know a lot of you probably don't even understand what I'm talking about, but you're watching global government coming together before your very eyes. You're watching the destruction of the institution of the American presidency, the loss of faith of the American people in their Congress. There's going to be a move toward the parliamentary form of government. You watch it. It's going to happen. They just created a world court to which we have subscribed, which means we are no longer a sovereign nation. If that means anything to you, it means a lot to me.
And me.
And now we're watching the purposeful creation of a global economic collapse. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, the entire global economy is coming down around our ears. I predicted that over a year ago. In fact, I predicted in May of 1997 that on October the 24th, the New York stock market would crash over 500 points, and it did. I predicted it right here on the Hour of the Time, and it did. And I told you then that was the beginning of a global economic collapse. And we have been watching it take place. Now, you don't see this on CNN or NBC or any of the communist news networks. You don't hear it from Dan Rather-Not or Ted Copulator or any of those talking jerks. But if you watch the world news as I do, if you get the world news from all of the capitals of the world as I do every day, it has happened. It has happened. And now they're talking about putting into place an economic safeguard organization to replace the International Monetary Fund to control the world economy. Now, if that's not one world government, will someone please educate me? Will someone please educate me? You see, a government is an economic system, and once you have a world or a global economic system run from one central point, you have world government. That's what's going on. And then I watched Crossfire and became physically ill. Every time I see James Carville, it just makes me want to puke. I know the guy can't help the way he looks. I know that, and I shouldn't feel that way. But I can't help it. It's a visceral reaction. Every time I see him, I feel physically ill. You know, if anybody in this world looks evil, James Carville looks evil. I don't know whether he is or not, and I'm not saying that he is. But I got to tell you, the guy just absolutely, I don't believe he has any morals or ethics whatsoever. I think this guy, I think this guy is not above doing or saying anything. And so I went through that. Here's the President of the United States under full-blown he's in a catastrophic situation because of something he did. And it's being exploited as an attack upon the presidency itself. And he knows. Had to sneeze, folks. Excuse me. Had to turn off the mic. He knows, and all of his advisors know, that he has to make a deal with the Republicans somehow, or he's going to be impeached. And I don't think he can make a deal at this point. And here's James Carville running around pretending to be defending the president, screwing up his deal with the Republicans, attacking Newt Gingrich and the leadership of the Republican Party. And everything is just falling down around our ears, folks, and I don't think it's going to get anything but worse.
Nope.
Much, much worse. So, we're going to talk about all this stuff tonight. And
I saw something interesting today on my sideline, I'll call it. I have to watch TV all day.
Yeah.
And the morning shows that are on, the news ones.
He has to watch TV all day.
Yeah, it's no good, trust me. The one where the gentleman stands on the sidewalk in New York, asks where you're from, that's a big part of the morning show. They have
Hi, what's your name? Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, that one. It's a big one. I can't remember the name. It's got the peacock, whoever that is.
That's National Broadcasting Communists.
Yeah, there you go. They had two special stories today, peanut-free zones.
Peanut-free zones?
Yes, schools and a coalition of child nutritionists are calling for peanut-free zones.
Peanut-free zones? You're joking.
No, because the allergies related to peanuts and peanut butter are affecting kids so severely they want to ban peanut butter.
Peanut butter is what I grew up on.
Yeah.
Every child that I knew while I was growing up ate peanut butter and peanut butter sandwiches and peanut butter on celery sticks and peanut butter in apples and peanut butter out our ears.
No, they actually want peanut-free zones in schools and peanut-free areas in a plane flight because since you're contained within a plane.
Are these to be corridors surrounding the gun-free zone?
That and the biosphere, I don't know.
How about the sex-free zone? Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's in the school.
Yeah, that's in it.
They're giving out condoms and telling them
how to do it.
Yeah.
And the other story, which really got to me.
How could I have gotten so confused?
Tired.
Okay, what's the other story?
It was a major headline story for them. They pronounced it all over America. It's on satellite, everything. About a couple of parents that everybody's looking for because they took, supposedly, here's what they said. These two parents, mom and dad, together, agreeing on it, went and took their child out of the hospital because they didn't agree with something the hospital was doing. So it's kidnapping, and they want to publicize this horrible story and tell the nation why it's bad that they do this. Now, how can two parents together, how do they kidnap their own child?
Well, you can't.
Yeah.
It was the hospital that kidnapped the child.
Exactly.
That's who kidnapped the child.
And they made a headline story.
No one has a right to take anyone's child away from them, period.
Yeah. There was something they disagree with the hospital on some basis, and I didn't watch the whole story because I had to flick around because there's some other thing. And but the headline they were giving it was, these two parents, can you believe this heart-wrenching story? they kidnapped their child from the hospital. This never took the child, nothing. They kidnapped their child, their own parents. Because the hospital had control.
Mm-hmm. Well, they tried that when Pooh was born. I absolutely refused to fill out a birth certificate or sign one. And they told me I could not take my child home. I asked the doctor how long he wanted to live. And he changed his mind really quick because he saw that I was dead serious. And I took my child home. And I just can't imagine these things happening. I can't imagine people allowing them to happen. I can't imagine people standing there while someone takes their child from their home knowing that they're not going to get their child back. They can't possibly love those children.
They hand them over half the time.
They can't possibly love those children. They can't possibly care about those children.
Not at all. Not at all. They hand them over. Someone comes and knocks on the door and says, "Well, I heard you spanked your kid." "Oh, well, here then." Because they think some agency's got a badge. I was told today to call CPS at my job.
For what?
Because I called on a account, and it was a 6-year-old. He told me point blank, "Well, my mom's not here. I don't know the information you want. I'm by myself." And when I hung up, I was told, "Well, why don't you call CPS? He shouldn't be there by him." I was like, "I'm not going to do that." It didn't happen either, trust me. But
she told you to call CPS, Child Protective Services, because the child said the child was there alone by himself. Oh my God.
What's going on? And then the next headline story I saw, Mayor Bradley died of a massive heart attack or complications thereof, I guess.
The Los Angeles Mayor Bradley? Okay.
And the same station was making sure that they pushed him. They were really promoting this guy. Now, I'm from California my whole life.
I wouldn't go around admitting that.
Well, I'm going to now. Unfortunately.
The whole world knows now.
But
it's okay, I was born there, but
that's it. But they made sure to push him as a great American, an American hero, did more for LA, did more for the people, did more for California than any mayor in history. I personally, looking at his track record and what he used to do, always thought he was a socialist.
Well, he was a socialist. He was a socialist. Yeah, and what he did for LA is thoroughly disgust the voters so much that they quit going to the polls. The last mayoral election in Los Angeles, when I was there, less than 10% of the registered voters went to the poll and voted in the mayoral election. Now, that's less than 10% of the registered voters, which means it's probably around 1% of the entire population of the city elected the mayor, which tells you that nobody in L.A. thinks that their vote counts or that it's even worth going to vote because of the crooked politics that they have.
Oh, yeah. I used to see on the news back home where Mayor Bradley was making deals with foreign countries. I would. He met with the Japanese, this and that, for the remember the offshore logging? They just they buy the logs at nothing, get them over 12 miles offshore, sell them, and bring them right back and sell them. Yeah,
and raise the price about 40 times. And they were only buying the best wood, too, the very best wood. Yeah, I remember that. I certainly do. Well, can't do that, can I? But I can do that.
What'll I do when you are far away and I am blue? What'll I do? What'll I do when I am wondering who's kissing you? What'll I do?
like that song, though?
Yes.
Me too. I like all these old songs. That's all you hear on 101.1 FM either. This kind of music.
What'll I do with just a photograph to tell my...
By the way, folks, this is a dedication. It was called in earlier today for Monica Lewinsky from William Jefferson Clinton.
If only dreams of you that won't come true, what will I
Can't you just picture him sitting there in the evening shadows in the Oval Office staring at his cigar box? Did I say that?
Yeah. Humidor.
The humidor. Ladies and gentlemen, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And you know, that's what I'm asking you tonight. What are we going to do? We have stripped ourselves of military. We have no more retaliatory strike capability. We have absolutely no more ICBM capability to deliver atomic weapons across the ocean. All of our B-52s, or most of them, not all, most of them have been chopped up into several pieces in the Arizona desert by a huge guillotine, by the way. A huge guillotine. This big, huge guillotine knife lifted up by a crane is dropped on each wing next to the fuselage, and then the fuselage is cut in half. And there they sit. Our military servicemen and women are demoralized. They have been cut back to almost nothing. They're working their butts off. Hardly get to see their families anymore. Our reserve forces, combat-ready reserve forces, have been deactivated, and they're now all support for supply and transportation and
combat service support.
Combat service support is what they call it. We have lost most of our major industry. We have become just as I predicted, I wrote this in my book years ago, the United States would become a service economy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what we're becoming. Nobody trusts government anymore. Nobody believes government anymore. We cannot find one politician anywhere who is not one of the most despicable chronic liars that you've ever seen in your life. And as if that isn't enough, the American people have accepted that politicians lie and don't think anything of it. Don't think anything of it at all. And now the office of the presidency has been made a laughing stock. Congress is a joke. Our institutions are becoming silly things that nobody really puts any trust, any credibility, or any stock into. We are fractured like we have never been fractured before. The divisiveness running through this country is absolutely unbelievable. Everyone is pitted against everyone else. And everyone seems to be falling right into it, believing it. They have lost all concept of the principles and ideals that created this country and should make us all one. all one Americans devoted to the preservation of freedom for all people. Instead, we want more legislation. We want more social programs. We want more control by government. We want bigger police forces. We want more laws. We want the drugs and crime off the streets, and polls tell us that Americans are willing to give up their rights to get the drugs and crime off the streets. Blacks hate whites, white hate black. Blacks hate Jews, Jews hate everybody. American Indians have been disenfranchised and feel that their culture has been stripped from them along with their lands. Orientals and Jews isolate themselves in self-inflicted ghetto communities. Blacks, while reaching out for desegregation and wanting to live in mixed racial neighborhoods, congregate in the inner cities where crime, drugs, and misery runs rampant. Homeless abound everywhere. You have lunatics on the radio telling you that we're going to be invaded any moment by aliens from outer space.
The Peace Squadron.
And everything else in the world that you can think of. Earth changes. Tonight on Art Bell is going to be, who is it? Sean David Morton. One of the biggest phony, fraud, fake liars that have ever populated this planet. I know him personally. He called me in 1989 and told me on the telephone that he was the son of Satan. At that time he was an actor. Sent me one of his publicity photos. Wrote me letters faithfully all the time, and then when I went up to Groom Dry Lake, he was there, followed me around like a little puppy dog, claiming to be the world's greatest expert on UFOs, yet he didn't know anything about them. Never had a college degree in his life. One day, and the next day, he was a doctor. A doctor. The next day, a doctor.
He's still an actor.
And now, he makes predictions. Like someone else I know, Michael Scallion. You know, anybody can do that, ladies and gentlemen. There's a mathematical science to it. Anybody on the face of this earth can predict that there's going to be an earthquake in California tomorrow, and they will be 100% correct. There's earthquakes every day in California. Earth changes. Have you seen these maps of the earth changes? You should listen tonight, though, to Art Bell, and you can get an education on how a con man operates, because that's what he is. You're going to hear one of the biggest con jobs you ever heard in your life tonight if you listen to Sean David Morton on Art Bell. It will give you a good education. So I'm telling you all, you should listen. I'm not trying to increase Art Bell's credibility or ratings or anything else. It's a good way to find out how Americans are being scammed and shuffled off into cul-de-sacs where they chase their tail forever, never accomplishing anything. Will o' the wisps. Will o' the wisps. Do you actually believe, ladies and gentlemen, that somebody can sit down and draw a map showing the exact new coastline after the earth changes? According to the map, I'm sitting on prime, multi-billion-dollar oceanfront property.
All right.
And should make out really well in the deal.
Good deal. Come on, San Andreas.
And at the altitude we're at, we have no fear of being flooded by the sea, no matter how much ice melts anywhere. I heard a figure touted recently that the ice cap over the Antarctic continent is melting. and that if it continues to melt, the oceans of the world will rise 200 feet. Now, ladies and gentlemen, most of the Earth's surface is covered by water. The Antarctic continent is a very small portion of the entire Earth's surface. If it had ice covering it 200 miles high, it couldn't raise the sea level all over the world 200 feet. But that's what you're supposed to believe.
I heard that.
This is incredible.
Yeah, they say 76% of the Earth is what I've heard, covered with water.
This is incredible, ladies and gentlemen. We have people off chasing everything except what they should be chasing, paying attention to everything except what they should be paying attention to. Scared to death, we're going to be invaded by extraterrestrial beings from outer space, while everything is falling apart around them and they don't give a damn about those things.
The neutralizer.
This is incredible. Has everyone lost their mind? Has the entire world, tripped right over the edge? Are we in free fall without a parachute here? Are we, is anybody even trying to find a D-ring just in case they might have put one on and forgotten about it? I don't see anybody doing that. I don't see anybody trying to do anything about the divisiveness in this country. I see everybody falling into the trap and just dividing more. It's like cells that split. This cell splits and you got two people fighting each other. They split, now you got 4. They split, then you got 8. They split, you got 16. And it keeps doing. We keep becoming more and more divided. Remember when there was one Christian church, the Catholic Church? And then Martin Luther tacked that thing on the door while he was wearing the ring and using the seal of the Rosenkreuz. The Rosae Cruci. He didn't do that because he believed in what he tacked on that door. He did it intentionally to split Christianity. And it's been splitting ever since. For all of you who think that Judaism is united, you're wrong. There are just as many splits amongst the Jewish religion. The only one I don't see that happening in is Buddhism. You see it happening amongst the Hindus. You see it happening amongst the Muslims. You see it happening to every religion and every people and every institution. Everything in the world is breaking down. Splitting up. And all the splits are aligning themselves against all the other splits and all the other people. Did you ever think that you would hear somebody talking about the left and right wing in Israel? And that they're pitted bitterly against each other?
Yeah.
Well, it's true, folks. It's happening. And now secular Jews are split against Orthodox Jews, and then you have Messianic Judaic sects. You have those that follow the Kabbalah, the mystical study of the Kabbalah. And then you have a lot of people that don't know anything about Judaism or the Kabbalah, using the Kabbalah as if they know what they're talking about to run their lives. And it's an esoteric tome. I'm telling you right now, they can read it all their life and they're not going to know anything about what it says. Because they're reading it as if it's a literal interpretation, when it is an esoteric metaphor for much deeper philosophies. Much of it is based upon symbolism and the mystical meaning of numbers. You have so-called Christians who quote extensively from the Old Testament and ignore everything that Jesus Christ ever said. You have Jews now who are Jews for Jesus. How can you be a Jew for Jesus? Jew is not a race. Jew is a religion. You can't be Jews for Jesus. You can be Christians for Jesus, or you can be Jews for Judaism, but you can't be Jews for Jesus. We have African Americans. What in the hell is that? A guy born in the Bronx. He's black. My name is Kwamamo Popupo. I'm an African American. Baloney. You're either an African or you're an American, but you're not an African American. Somebody has thrown you a curveball. You don't know who you are. You're confused. Now we have Asian Americans.
Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, Irish Americans.
Someone once called my wife an Asian American, and she took great affront to that, and so did I. She is from Taiwan by birth, but she is an American. She's an American. She believes in all the principles and ideals and freedoms and everything that all of us do. What is all this about? Are you a Christian? No, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. Oh, aren't they Christians? Yes, but we don't believe in all the nonsense that all of you other Christians believe in. In fact, we don't believe that you're Christians because you don't believe what we believe. Well, what are you? I'm a Southern Baptist. Really? Gee, how can you be a Southern Baptist when the Southern Baptist Church has now been taken over by Freemasonry and is run by people who worship the sun and Lucifer? I mean, that's not Christianity, but it's the truth. And then you go to a Masonic lodge and you ask them if it's a religious organization, they say no. And then they point to the Bible on the altar. I tell you that they believe in God, and that's what the big G stands for, and that they're Christian, and that the Bible proves it. But yet you go down the street to a Masonic lodge that is populated by the nation of Islam, black people who believe the religion of Islam, and they will show you that they have what on their altar? The Quran. They have the Quran on their altar. So how could the Freemasons be Christian? If you go to the Far East and visit a Masonic lodge, you're liable to see the Bhagavad Gita on the altar. You read Albert Pike, and it says that it absolutely, without any doubt whatsoever, is a religion. He says it over and over and over again. They thought so much of him that they took his body and entombed him in the house of the temple in Washington, D.C. And they made his book, Morals and Dogma, required reading and were given to every Freemason when they were initiated into the lodge. Yet they say, if you quote Albert Pike to them, they say, Albert Pike does not represent nor speak for Freemasonry. Well, you say, who does? Well, they'll tell you nobody does. And the reason they tell you that is so that you can't pin them to the wall with their own words. Everyone, ladies and gentlemen, today is full of crap. Just absolutely full of crap, lying to everybody else, and they're all divided against everybody else, and everybody has an agenda, and nobody's agenda except mine seems to be freedom. Nobody seems to care about freedom anymore, except for just a few of us. They've lost it. They don't even understand that without freedom, they can't even stand there in these divisive institutions and lie to each other anymore, because socialism and communism, once they reach the ultimate power that they're striving for, won't allow it. No dictator in the world would ever allow it. You think they do that in Iraq? You think Saddam Hussein would allow that kind of thing? No. You think they do it in Cuba? No. No, not on your life. So what's this all about? Anybody got any ideas? What are we going to do? You're all sitting out there waiting for me to give you an answer. I know what's going to happen in the future, but I don't know what the answer is. Now let me explain that to you. You see, I know the ultimate confrontation that we are being propelled into is going to be an armed conflict between a lot of people. How it's going to come out, I haven't got the slightest idea. I know how I would like it to come out. I would like a restoration of Republican constitutional government. Freedom. I would like freedom to reign all over the earth, for all people and all religions everywhere. But I can't guarantee that that will happen. And I know enough about war, and I've studied the history of the world enough to know that once such a conflict begins, the outcome is uncertain at best, and somebody that nobody is even thought about could rise to power with some form of government that nobody's ever heard of or even remotely dreamed of could emerge out of something like that. And I know that all through it, the sheeple will be begging for the end of it, and they will be willing to make any kind of a deal with anybody who can guarantee them peace and quiet and security. I know that, because that's the nature of sheeple. Right, Doyle?
Yeah. I never understood that concept though of peace and quiet and security. Because if you look back through history, you can see footage on film or still pictures. Any of those institutions that supposedly guarantee that, all you see is sirens and spotlights and dogs.
That's right. That is exactly what Hitler said to the German people. I'm going to do away with crime, and I'm going to do away with poverty, and I'm going to do away with all the hardships and all of that kind of stuff. We're going to purify the race, and we're going to make Germany the ruler of the world, the most powerful country on earth, and all Germans are going to be happy and secure, and we're going to get rid of all the Jews and all the blacks and all the Catholics and all the Christians and all the Poles and the Russians and, you know, the Slavic peoples, and you know, and everybody, I don't know how this happens. If anybody comes to me and say, Bill, we've got to do something for your own good, you know, the first thing that comes into my mind is I want to grab the guy and put him on a Greyhound bus to Alaska. That's what I want to do with that guy. I don't want him doing anything for my own good. I don't want him to even think about what he can do for my own good. Because every time somebody sets out to solve all the world's problems, they screw everything up. I mean it, they screw everything up. You know why we're in the state we are today? The machinations of social engineering has brought all this about. All of it. That's exactly where it comes from. Social engineering. And it's happened right in this country, and it's been done to us, by us. By those of us who think they know what's best for all of the rest of us.
They started young too.
Yes, they did.
They're in school.
Start them very young.
Rat on your parents.
What do you think this thing going around in school now, that before you can't graduate unless you've performed so many hours of community service?
To me, that's free labor.
It sure is.
Slavery.
It's enslavement. If somebody is forced to do labor for somebody else against their will, that's slave labor. They're not being paid for it either.
No.
How about that? So in about a minute, I'm going to turn over the tape, and then we're going to open the phones. And this is what we're going to talk about tonight. What are we going to do? What do you think we ought to do? Do you think we ought to do anything? Do you think we ought to just sit back and let this take its course and rely upon the benevolent hand of fate to decide the future of the world? Hey, man, out of all the possible courses that we could take, that scares me more than anything. That's why I can't stand all these people who are sitting back saying, I'm not going to get involved with worldly affairs because I'm going to be raptured. I am one of the 144,000, and I'm not going to be around to deal with this. You deal with it. I don't even want to know about it. Don't want to talk about it. I don't even care. I am not of this world. Well, then get out of it, you know. Okay, I'm going to turn the tape over, and then we're going to open the phone.
34578 is the calling line.
Yes, it is.
What you were saying reminds me of what I was told by a big media producer about 3 weeks ago. Remember that? 4 weeks ago? Well, we don't want to air anything that might cause controversy. We just want to preach.
Yeah, and they will not just air the right side of any problem.
No.
They want two sides. They want two people who will tell you that they are both right, but they are both saying exactly the opposite thing. Good evening, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing, Bill?
Well, I'm doing.
I hear you. I love your show. Glad to hear you back on the air.
Thank you.
I got a few points I want to get on you.
Sure.
On the peanut butter fiasco.
Isn't that the darndest? Yeah, go ahead.
Most of the cows in the nation are fed on peanut hay.
Most of the what?
Most of the cows in the nation are fed on peanut hay, so they're going to have to stop giving milk out to school too.
Well, you know, part of the movement toward the New Age and the New World Order is to destroy the beef industry.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And go to an all non-meat diet is what they want.
Yes, sir. Never trust a vegetarian.
Never trust a vegetarian?
Right.
Why not?
I don't know. It's just being satirical. Right?
Oh, okay.
The second point, you know, you're talking about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? You know, where do we draw the line?
Well, I've already drawn my line. I'm just asking all of you, what do you think
Well,
we should do? What's next? You know, how do we get out of this corner that we've been backed into?
Well, that is for someone smarter than I am. But what I'd like to hit on.
My friend, there's nobody in this world smarter than you are. All human beings have the same brain capacity, same brain capabilities, and the same opportunity to use it. All you got to do is make them wheels turn, and it's true. How do you think Bill Clinton got in the White House?
I think he should be impeached and prosecuted and hung for treason. Monica Lewinsky is just another issue. It's immoral. I believe he committed a crime with that, and it's perjury. But I personally believe he should be tried and executed for treason. And if that went through, we would probably lose 90% of our elected officials.
Well, I think we might regain some respect for our government.
Yes, sir, absolutely, 100%.
If they let all this slide by, who in the world is going to trust or believe them ever again?
Absolutely right.
About anything.
But hitting on one more thing, you know, when the first Revolutionary War hit, when they went to meet the British at Lexington and Concord.
See, you do know something about the future. You said the first.
The first.
Which means you know there's going to be a second, don't you?
Uh-huh.
I do too.
Well, we've already had the second one. I don't know if you can tell by my accent, but I'm a Southerner. All the government regulations that we're getting right now.
Don't think for 1 minute that the Civil War was inspired by what you think it was. The Civil War was a manipulation by England to divide the colonies against themselves in an attempt to regain control in this country.
Oh, yes, sir.
And Lincoln didn't go for it, and neither did the South. They refused to borrow money from the Bank of England.
Right. I read that, agree with you 100%. But all the Southern Reconstruction that was crammed down our throats in nationwide now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But the preacher, when they marched to meet the British, of course, the British were coming to disarm them.
Yes.
Most people don't realize that.
You're talking about Lexington and Concord, yeah.
And they all left the church service. I don't remember the preacher's name, but he preached a fire and brimstone of serving God and defending your liberties and your land. And they marched out from the church and went and met the British. Opposition to tyrants is service to God. Absolutely. Hit one more thing and I'll get off the line. On the rapture. I'm only I'll be 37 years old tomorrow. I had read the book of Revelations, I would say 12 times, all translations, King James, NIV, all of them. The rapture, if you take the rapture out of your mind completely, the book of Revelations makes complete sense. Most people say, well, I don't understand it. But if you take the rapture theology out of the book of Revelation, it's laid out perfectly clear 100%, and you better get ready because there is some trouble coming upon this land.
Well, I don't think we need any book of Revelations to tell us that. I look around and see it everywhere.
Absolutely. I think Bible prophecy is being fulfilled every day. But God bless your work. Keep up the good work, and I'll let somebody else get on.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
Thanks for calling. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know it, it wasn't just Paul Revere who rode through the countryside. It was a whole bunch of writers. Paul Revere was used as the icon of the whole movement. Actually, good evening. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. You familiar with this Promise Keepers movement?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Well, they ran an article in the magazine last year, against the militias. But the basic deal was that, we're not American citizens. We're citizens of God's community or something along that line. And what gets me, these churches say that, not to resist the evil and all that, with physical means.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, when the 4th of July rolls around, they put their flags out on the front of the churches and sing their patriotic songs. At the end of the day, they put all that away.
They're all full of crap. And if you're listening and you're a member of that movement, listen, read my lips. You're full of crap.
No, I'm not.
Are you a part of the Promise Keepers?
Oh, no, sir.
I'm not talking to you. See, you're not listening to me. I'm talking about the Promise Keepers. They're full of crap.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you.
All of these movements, they're full of crap. They really are. And if you listen to the sermons at the Promise Keepers, they're not God worshipers, they're phallus worshipers. They worship the male sexual organ.
And the way to split everybody up.
One comment on the base.
Why do you think it's for men only?
Yeah. See your point there.
And guess what? The Freemasons do too. Why do you think when they die they put an obelisk on their grave? That's the symbol of the phallus of Osiris.
I've heard the Masons call in on talk shows say that Pike was just a crazy man or something like that. I read this.
Yeah, that's why they buried his body in the house of the temple in Washington, D.C., the same as they buried Lenin in the wall of the Kremlin. That's why they did it, because he's just a crazy old fool, and then he didn't speak for Freemasonry.
I read the Scottish Rite Journal at the library.
Uh-huh.
And they covered a story. A local lodge was actually having an Albert Pike Day, honoring him. And
yeah, he's one of their greatest heroes.
They quoted a guy said, "We'd be proud to have him as a brother, Mason today."
Yeah. Well, he put to pen he took out of the hidden esoteric language and put to pen the philosophy and the religion of the Freemasonic Lodge.
Right. Okay, I'll let you go.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks for calling. And basically, it's the Luciferian philosophy. He said it. Adam and Eve were held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, vindictive God. They were set free from the bonds of ignorance by Lucifer through his agent, Satan, with the gift of intellect. And when they took a bite out of that apple, they became as gods. Good evening, you're on the air.
Yeah, Bill, this is Phil in Alabama.
Hi.
From what I can see, we'll have two choices here. I think that the people or the sheeple will either be sheared, or you'll have a choice of either becoming a patriot or a slave.
They're already being sheared.
I know.
And then wait till you see what happens over the next month or two. If you've got money in the stock market, man, I'm telling you right now, you better listen to me. Better listen very closely to me. You better get it out right now, because the whole thing is coming down around our ears like you never ever could even imagine.
Oh, absolutely. The banking system is controlled by a handful of families, and they're setting it up for the Antichrist. Yeah, it's plain to see.
Well, that's your opinion.
Well, it's one of them.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think if if we don't restore the contract of the Constitution for the United States of America, we're going to be in big trouble, real big trouble. That we have no choice.
Yes, you're correct. If there is not a restoration of constitutional republican government and the guarantee of freedom in this country, then the whole world, including this country, is going to fall to enslavement as human beings have been enslaved throughout history.
Exactly.
As blacks are enslaved in their ghettos, and all of the people, not just blacks, but all of the people in the inner cities and in the places where they take drugs are enslaved through the euphemistic enslavement of drug addiction.
Oh, sure. As well as brought up by the Freemasonry. They support and they bring in the drugs into this country.
Well, I got news for you. It's not the Freemasons who are doing it. It's the intelligence community of the United States of America and other countries, all operating together with each other.
The KGB and the CIA working together.
Absolutely. And the Mossad and the British intelligence organizations. England has been involved in drug dealing and drug smuggling throughout their history. That's how they controlled populations.
You know, it looks to me like it's a script, like it's been written out. It's just like a play going on.
It is a script. You go down and you go back through history and study ancient Rome, and you will see them doing the same things today that they did then.
Oh, sure.
When Cicero couldn't get his way, Cicero would cause his thugs to go out and destroy and burn and sack a Roman government building and beat up and kill a few citizens. And then they would declare that terrorists were loose in the city, and they disarmed the citizens of Rome. And piece by piece dismantled the Roman Constitution and changed the republic into an oligarchy and then into a dictatorship, and then they made the head man a god. And then it became a theocracy.
Well, your book was in 91, wasn't it?
My book was published in December of 1990.
Oh, 90. Okay, I'm sorry. I did have a copy of it. I loaned it to a friend, never got it back. But you know what? It sounds exactly like what you had in your book. I mean, almost exactly the way they had it planned out, and that's the way it's working out right now.
Exactly. That's why my book is the #1 bestseller and has been since it was published in the underground press.
That's why I couldn't get it back from the lady I loaned it to.
Nobody ever does. I hear that complaint all the time.
No, that was a big mistake for me, but it's good to hear you on the planet now. At least the signal is strong down here, and we can understand you now, and we had a little trouble with that other station in Miami.
Yeah, well, I am too. I lost my magnetic shoes, and I was drifting off into space, and then Al Wiener threw a rope up there and grabbed me and brought me right back to the planet, and here I am.
Yeah, and it's good to have you on for 3 hours. Now you can really do something. You know, one thing I wanted to hear.
Well, I'll tell you what. If we don't get a lot more orders for our products than what we're getting, we're going to go to 2 hours very quickly.
Right. I need to call and get get a catalog, a list of products that you have, because I'm sure there's a lot of things on there I'm probably going to need.
Well, you probably will, yeah.
Yeah. Especially information. I think that's the key to survival in this next century is going to be information. What you don't know can hurt you.
Information is the source of all power today.
Exactly. Well, they're using it against us. We need to get up and re-educate ourselves. We've lost the ability to think.
Yes.
And, lobotomized by the two, and we're forgetting what the prize is.
Don't let the National Education Association teachers off the hook. Most people are lobotomized in school by their own teachers.
Oh, sure. Well, look at the socialist movement that controls the education in this country.
Yeah, well, the NEA is a socialist organization that was created to change the mentality of the American people.
Sure, it's Rockefeller and Carnegie.
Well, actually, it was John Dewey.
Dewey?
Yeah, and he made no bones about what he was doing, and the leadership of the NEA has spelled it out all over the years. I mean, it's on record. It's no mystery.
Right. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned once about a book called The Mystery of the Ages, The Mysteries of Babylon. Is that the same book or two separate books?
I don't recall what book you're talking about. We have a lot of books here.
Yeah.
And I read a lot of books all the time, and my library is now packed in boxes in storage, so I can't even walk in the next room and look on the shelf and see if there's anything there like that.
At one time you did, I think, 45 hours on the mysteries of the ages, And
Mystery Babylon, yeah.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that wasn't from a book. That was from years and years and years of study and research into the hidden religion and esoteric behind the veil true movement of the Illuminati that exists at the highest levels of all of these so-called fraternal orders.
Who's at the top of this?
There's nobody at the top. There's not one person who rules. It is a consensus formed through all of the teachings and the esoteric plan that they've been following for hundreds of years.
Right. And I noticed that when you did broadcast that, you said it would blow over a lot of people's heads because of the symbolism involved, and then you mentioned the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas. I've been in there. I used to work in Las Vegas, and you're absolutely right. The plants have the formaldehyde, and everything is like dead, and they even smell of death when you walk in.
Yeah, it certainly is.
And if you look at the video, when Bush toured it, when it first opened, there's no sound to it, but you get the creepy feeling. You get this like this tingling in the back of your neck. You know?
You're very perceptive.
Well, good luck to you, Bill, and I'm a long-time listener, and there are people out there that do listen and haven't spoken to you before, and we're just so happy that you're on the planet now. We can hear you, and we got our pencils and paper here, and we're going to get the action done that we need to do because we've got no choice now. We're up against the wall.
Okay, hold on just a minute.
All right.
Across America and around the world, you're listening to WBCQ, Monticello, Maine, USA. Okay.
The legal and lawful by the rule of laws is, we're trying that. Apparently, it's not working because we're being blocked by.
We're not under the rule of law anymore. They're making it up as they go along.
Oh, right.
They are not obeying. They're so far outside the law, it's unbelievable.
Right.
They're so far outside the law that you have no prayer if you ever get hauled into one of their courts.
Exactly.
You'll present your defense or your case according to the law, and they don't go by the law.
Right.
They don't go by the Constitution, and if you mention the Constitution in most of these courts, they'll tell you if you mention it again that they'll hold you in contempt and throw you in jail.
Well, exactly. You have lawsuits that have been sued against the United States because of the United Nations and the sovereignty of this country, invading the sovereignty. And what has happened is that the judges won't even hear the cases because they're saying you haven't even been damaged yet. There's nothing we can do. And it's just like...
They're crooks, they're liars, they're traitors. There are no honest men sitting in federal court judge benches.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
They are liars. They make up the law as they go along. They destroy people every single day, and they let the government and its police agencies get away with everything,
right,
including mass murder.
Oh, exactly. Look at Waco. That should have been a wake-up call for this country, but...
well, it was for many of us.
It should. I know it was for me. When I saw that, I said, well, next thing will be a garden plot and cable splicer, and I'm afraid that's the way it's going.
Well, that's exactly the way it's going.
Exactly.
They're not training our military to fight wars in foreign countries. They're training them in urban guerrilla warfare to fight Americans right here.
Oh, right. Eventually they'll go to door to door. Hitler did this. What he did, he took troops from other parts of Austria, and he moved them into other countries where they had held no allegiance.
Sure.
And that's what is going on right now. You're living in 1938 Nazi Germany.
Yes.
With Bill Clinton at the helm. What really scares me is going into Y2K with Bill Clinton or Al Gore. We need a real leader in there, and I think the only way we're going to get it is to restore the Constitution legally and lawfully.
Let me tell you something.
There is a provision in the Constitution to do this.
You heard...
Formal government
did you hear
against the people.
Did you hear what Clayton Douglas said last night?
What's that?
He told you the truth.
Exactly.
If you were to take Bill Clinton out of the presidency right now, impeach him, however you did it, it wouldn't make any difference.
No.
Nothing would change. If you were to put a Republican in there tomorrow, wouldn't make any difference. Nothing would change.
Yeah.
Nothing. We'll still be going in the same direction, down the path toward world government and the destruction of this country and our freedom. We don't have any sovereignty when you hear the so-called leaders, read traitors in Washington, D.C., telling us that we are now party to a world court, a world criminal court.
Sure, they could drag you into that court and convict you, and you have no rights. And
Well, I'm sure they already got their eye on me.
oh well,
I don't have any doubts about that, but I'm not going in their court unless I'm in a coffin.
yeah. Well, you know that's
They can find my dead body guilty if they can do that.
Right. They'll round up people that they feel don't go along with the order. And we've already been told that by Louis Freeh. If you don't go along with the New World Order, or the New Order, which he called it, you're considered a domestic terrorist.
That's exactly right.
You've already been branded as domestic terrorist.
Yeah, for telling the truth.
Right.
Most dangerous radio host in America because I tell the truth.
Yeah, you know, I heard that once, and you know, and I did laugh. I had to laugh. I said, how can anybody that night after night, year after year, sits there and tells you the truth, and it comes true right before your eyes, but you still don't believe it, and then you call it dangerous? I don't see how anybody can actually see that. You're not using their brain. They're going off and...
Oh, yes, they are. You see, they know what I know. The truth is the most dangerous weapon you can use against a liar.
Sure, then you have to feed them disinformation. That's all you're seeing is disinformation.
Socialism is nothing but a string of lies. It cannot stand in the light of truth. Neither can communism. So they must lie to people and manipulate them, and by slow degrees strip them of their rights and push them into the new order. Because if anybody could ever see the truth about what is coming, there would be nothing but bodies swinging from ropes, from lamp poles, all across Washington, D.C.
Well, I think you're right. I think if the people were to know right now how they've been sold out, they would do exactly that.
Yes, they would.
I'm afraid that they would.
Yeah.
I saw a foreign broadcast today on a presidential palace that was under siege. Did you see that?
No.
I think it was in Central America, and I was just thinking to myself,
in Central America?
Yeah.
I think you might be talking about somewhere in the Far East, because that's where those things are happening right now. The economies have plunged to such depths that the people are, in some places, in revolt.
Oh, right. In Indonesia, they had the riots.
Yeah. They're still rioting in Indonesia and Malaysia.
Right.
And
it kind of looked, I just got to think, it was one of those...
this collapse has not manifested its terror yet.
Yeah. I kind of always held in my mind, I kind of hoped that in the back of my mind that when the American people had enough, they'd do something about it. But apparently I don't see that happening.
Americans, by their very nature, won't have enough until you take their car away from them, their TV away from them, and they sit down to eat dinner some night, and there's nothing on the table.
Well, that just might happen with Y2K because there are embedded chips in vehicles, your TV set, your VCR, satellites. They may not even be able to uplink the signal because of embedded chips and systems.
Well, it's not any of that is the danger. It's people's reaction to it.
Right.
That is the danger.
I don't think.
What do you think is going to happen in the inner cities when the grocery supermarkets run out of food and there's no trucks coming in?
Right.
What do you think is going to happen?
Well,
you think the LA riots were bad? You ain't seen nothing yet, buddy.
Yeah.
And it won't be because of Y2K. It'll be because of the stupidity of the people.
Oh, sure. You take away their food, and they'll do almost anything to feel safe or get their food back.
Especially when they can do it in the middle of a mob where they think that nobody knows who the hell they are.
Right.
They'll murder you for a can of peas.
Yeah, exactly. For a loaf of bread or a can of peas.
Yeah, or a quarter even.
Right. Now, I was near L.A. at the time of the riots, and I remember that. And anyone who gets in the face of a mob ends up on the ground, kicked in the head, thrown in, and almost shot.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people out there shaking their heads saying, Bill Cooper's crazy, here he is, all this stuff. I'll tell you how I know this. It's not because God whispers in my ear or I have any kind of crystal ball. It's because I've studied history, and this scenario has repeated itself throughout the history of the world, and I just read the accounts of what happened in these cities when it happened.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And you know what? You look at it, there is a pattern of certain dates that have happened, just like the Oklahoma City bombing happened on the 19th.
Now you're getting into Art Bell territory. I don't believe in this pattern of dates unless there is a particular reason why a group of people would want something to happen on a certain date, because maybe that date has a particular meaning in their religion or their esoteric beliefs or something like that.
Right. Well, certain dates mean certain things to certain people.
Yes.
like in the Bible, certain dates or time periods are mentioned.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe that we're in a certain time period. Exactly. Well, if you compare throughout history, like you said, the pattern of this is you can look and see how it, economies countries were destroyed and invaded, taken over, and this is just another example of it. You know, of this world government and where it's headed.
Well, it's certainly headed. I'll tell you that. It's stampeding.
Well, like you said, you don't think we can stop it, but I don't think we have any choice but to try.
No, I don't believe for 1 minute we're going to stop it. I believe that we're rushing toward a confrontation between armed groups for the future of the world. And I think I think there's going to be civil war in this country.
Yeah.
I believe it.
I think there will.
It's already started on this mountaintop. I've already told them.
Well, you were talking earlier about how
they have
divided
yeah,
between religions and races.
Yeah.
And if you divide, you can conquer. And that's exactly what they're getting at each other's throats. They want everybody at each other's throats. So when they walk in, you're told this person is against you and you are against them, and you have hatred towards someone that you should be your brother. But instead of seeing that and seeing that you're going to be taken over by a cultistic, socialistic government, they don't see that. They don't understand that. They don't want to believe it.
How can they understand it when they don't even understand how their city works, much less their county, and forget the state and Washington, D.C.? That's why when these idiots with microphones stick a microphone in some sheeple's face and ask them what they think the Congress ought to do about such and such and so and so.
Yeah.
You know what the person ought to say? He ought to be honest and say, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not going to make a fool out of myself on television.
Right.
But you know what he does? He's, well, I think they ought to do this and this and this, and he hasn't got the slightest idea what he's talking about.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't. He doesn't understand the Constitution. He's never read it. You know, you'd be surprised how many police officers. I was a police officer myself back in the early 70s, and until I woke up to what was going on, and a federal officer, by the way, and I could see what was going on. You know, I said, well, I either want to get out of this and get on the other side, or I'm going to end up dead.
Well, that's right.
And I was in a dangerous neighborhood in New Orleans, and between low housing projects and high crime, and it wasn't safe. And if that's not safe, then imagine now, for what's coming, what we're facing.
Yeah.
But we are in dangerous times.
We certainly are. We're also in exciting times. I mean, every person on this earth has a chance to do something that can really affect the future of the entire human race.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm trying my best to have my effect, and some other people are. Most people sit on the couch and wait for somebody else to do it for them.
Yeah, it's like, somebody else will do it, but it's not going to get done that way. It's going to get done when you decide you've had enough, and you're going to do something about it.
But you want to know the truth? Throughout the history of the world, everything that's ever been done has been done by less than 3.5% of any population.
Oh, sure.
And sometimes as little as one man.
Oh, sure. The Revolutionary War is a good example of that. I think it was less, 3-4% of the population defeated the British.
It was about 3%.
Yeah. It was a small group.
3% of the entire population of the colonies created this nation and fought the Revolutionary War, and the rest of them were either still on the side of King George or just flat didn't give it in.
Well, sure. Many of them died and lost everything they owned just to keep that principle of freedom.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
They sacrificed, their family sacrificed. But see, people aren't willing to sacrifice anymore. They want somebody else to do it for them. I'm not going to do anything. I'll let the other guy worry about it.
Well, their idea of sacrifice is baking a cake and taking it down to the homeless center.
Yeah.
I sacrificed a box of cake mix in 2 hours of my time. That's, I've done my job, done my duty.
Yeah, they think they feel good. They walk away thinking, well, gee, I've really done something.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything.
Well, I don't know. If I was a homeless person and it was a good cake, I would have thought they did something. But it really isn't what they should be doing. You know what I'm talking about?
No, if they really want to do something, they'd go down there and help them get a job, or help them
No. If they really wanted to do something, they'd leave those poor people alone until they ask for help. Most of them don't want any help.
That's true.
And this is not a joke. I'm not trying to make a joke, and I'm not telling you a big fat lie here. It's the truth. Most homeless people are homeless because they want to be, and they don't want anybody messing with them.
Right, they want to lay on somebody else's leg. I mean, let's face it.
No, they don't even want to lay on somebody else's leg. They don't want anybody messing with them. They are in the situation that they want to be in.
Sure. They're in their own little world, and they don't want to be disturbed.
That's exactly right.
And
some of them do need help.
Well, yeah.
And some of them go and ask for help, and they get it.
Sure, which the person's going to want to help himself.
If they don't want to help themselves, it doesn't matter what you do, you cannot help them.
That's right. They're going to want it themselves.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of them don't want help. You know, they don't want to go out. They don't want to work.
That's right.
And they don't want to support their community or their country. They just don't care. I talk to people, you know, I try to explain to them what's going on. You know what kind of answers I get? Oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't like to talk about that. And then they get to that glazed over look in their eye.
Yeah.
You know, like, well, this guy's like, this can't be right. I mean, he must be delusional. You know, and then you try to show them.
They know better than that. The reason they don't want to talk about it is because, they know you're telling the truth. They don't want to be responsible to have to admit that it's true, because then they have to do something about it.
Because allowing it to get this far, as far as it has gone, they don't want to take the blame for not doing anything to get it that far. You know, it could have been stopped a long time ago. But
well, it's more than that. They don't want any part of it. They don't want to be responsible. They want you to leave them alone. They're like the homeless people. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
I'm having too much fun.
I'm happy. I got a job. I got a 6-pack of Budweiser, and Judy's coming over tonight. You leave me alone.
Yeah, I don't need anything. I don't want to hear all that.
Listen, I got to let you go. You've been on here a long time.
But thanks, Bill. I haven't talked to you in about 5 years because I haven't had a phone that was worth using. But tonight I thought I'd give you a call and, just be grateful that you're back on the air and we get the truth to give.
Thank you.
And it was a good guest you had last night. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And
thank you.
Good night.
520-333-4578 is the number. 520-333-4578. I can't say that fast, clearly. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hey, good afternoon, Bill.
Good afternoon. Okay. Where are you at?
Dave,
you must be in Hawaii.
Yeah. Hey, you asked about what we could do. In Ohio, we have some people that are giving law seminars. And maybe some of them are very active and they're filing lawsuits. And, of course, some of them are getting in trouble, too. But at least they're willing to share some of their information with the people that attend. And I thought maybe if, however, they still like to lecture. And then, so the average guy who goes there, he's not an activist, can't keep up with it.
The average guy who goes there is not looking to learn about law. He's looking for somebody to give him 2 or 3 sheets of paper that he can fill out according to the instructions during the seminar, sign his name to, and get out of a lot of stuff. It's not honesty they're engaged in, nor is it patriotism.
Pardon? What kind of patriotism?
I said it's not patriotism.
What is it?
No. I'm talking about for most of the people who go there to hear these seminars. They're looking for a magic bullet to solve their problems. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I know. Everybody's looking for that magic bullet.
There isn't any. There isn't any. Doesn't exist.
Well, I think people, all right, some of your callers call and say it's education. But then everybody's spending all their time educating, and you get into these arguments. One guy's got to tell you, that he's smarter than you. So the only thing I can think of is for these activists and lawyers, not lawyer types or know their law.
You know what you do? You stop going to seminars and you get your own nose in the law books and learn it like I did.
Okay, that's right. But to average guys.
Oh, don't give me that average guy. Bill Clinton's an average guy, and he's in the White House.
Yeah, I know.
Don't give me that average guy. I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't know how to do the research like you do. And that's baloney. My brain isn't any different than yours or anybody else's.
Some people don't have a good gift of words, though.
You know why they don't? because they haven't put any effort into it.
It takes a lot.
Oh my gosh. Heaven forbid that we should have to work to accomplish anything.
Hey, well, you got to do some work. I agree, and study these law books. But
if you don't, you're not going to learn anything in any seminar, because it all depends upon what you know, not what somebody tells you. And there's only one way to know it, and that is to get in there and study it, dig it out,
but we don't
learn
have that much time, Bill. So then now what do you?
Oh, well, then let's give up. There's not enough time. Let's just forget all of it. Why are we even talking about it if there's not enough time?
Well, I agree. I thought maybe there would be a magic bullet. So you're saying there is none?
Of course not. There never has been throughout the history of the world. Can you cite me any instance throughout the history of any nation on this earth that anybody ever had a magic bullet besides the Lone Ranger?
The Arizona Ranger. You know, it's like the song, you know, Arizona Ranger.
I haven't heard it.
Oh, hey, that's the best song there is by Marty Robbins.
I've never heard it.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Hey, okay, shift gears a little here. The American Revolution, you're talking a lot about that. Now, I've read the John Daniels, and it seems to me that a lot of these officers in Washington's army were all basically French Masonic, fighting the British, Masonic people, and they had enough connections to undermine Cornwallis and the British. What are you saying?
Most of the founding fathers were Freemasons. Benjamin Franklin was the master of the lodge in Philadelphia. Right. He was also the master of the Lodge of Nine Muses in France.
Okay.
George Washington was the master of lodge. He created the Knights of the Golden Circle, which was made up of the officers that served with him during the Revolution. Out of the Knights of the Golden Circle, which was also known by another name, came the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of other things.
Okay.
They did not found this nation to set men free. They founded this nation to destroy the kings and queens so that ultimately they could have one world government. That has always been the goal of the esoteric societies behind what they call the veil.
Okay.
In the process, they set men free because that's the only way that they could show the world that men could be free and cause them to revolt against the monarchies and topple them from the thrones, knowing full well that free men would not stay free, but would give up their freedom at some point in the future in exchange for security.
Right, I understand. But Bill,
what do you mean, right? You never understood this before.
Yes, I did. I hear a lot of this stuff. I listen to it. I love this stuff. Hey, but here's you see, we all, when we grow up, and even in our mid-40s, we still think that George Washington, we think of him as benevolent Mason. And they did a good thing, maybe. The French Masons, you know.
They did. They set you free. They're not imprisoning you again. You are.
Okay, all right, we are.
They gave us freedom. If we were capable of handling it and keeping it, this would be the New World Order.
But we lost it somewhere.
Yes.
Long time ago.
We didn't lose it. We gave it away.
Civil War time, I guess. Huh?
No. Every day since this nation was created, we have been giving our freedoms away. Bit by bit, piece by piece. Little by little, surely and surely.
All right, here's another.
Nobody outside this country did it to us. We did it to ourselves.
I agree. All right, very good. One more tactic here.
Okay.
Oh, you know how Clinton, he used a narrow definition of the sexual definition of sex defined by Judge Wright in the Paula Jones, right? In other words, his tactic was, well, I'm not guilty of something because it's defined by this narrow reasoning.
If that's the way it's defined in the law, how can he be guilty of breaking the law if he didn't do it?
Well, that's just the way he interpreted it.
Well, I'm not arguing that, but that's his argument. His argument is if the law defines it this way and I didn't do it that way, I'm not guilty of a crime. I didn't do it.
Okay, but he was just always referring to what Paula Jones. Hey, he was in the grand jury, and therefore, hey, we got different definitions. It isn't just what.
No, the law doesn't work that way. You go by the definition in the law. Doesn't matter what your definition is or my definition is. It matters what the definition in the law is.
Well, maybe the Judge Wright in the Paula Jones didn't define it correctly. She used a narrow definition to give Bill Clinton a way out. And that strategy is what I think the liberals and the New World Order people are doing. They play this, rabbinic.
All lawyers play it, and it has nothing to do with rabbinic. It's called cunning.
Well, you studied the Talmud, and you know how...
It has nothing to do with the Talmud. You're talking about law.
Yeah, I know, but they're masters at it. How to take the laws of...
Oh, come on, man. How do you go from Clinton going by a judge's definition to say he didn't commit an act, which is what all lawyers do in every court in this thing, to rabbinic Talmudism? How in the world did you make that leap?
I'm just using them as an expert example.
Them who?
Able to use words. To, change the laws of God, which is that thing in the Bible.
Change the laws of God?
Yeah,
nobody...
Jesus said in Matthew 15, you've taken the laws of God and making them of no effect by the tradition of your elders. And so the tradition of the elders eventually became the Mishnah and then the Talmud. And so, you read it in the expose. I'm not condemning them because they're experts in...
Not condemning who?
They're the original rabbinic writers of the Mishnah and the Talmud.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with you. That's their religion.
I know, but I'm just saying that's what Bill Clinton is using and the lawyers. And I'm just saying they use that again.
Wait a minute. Let's go back again. He's not using that. Bill Clinton isn't Jewish. I doubt if he's ever even heard of it.
Oh, I think he's been coached on it.
By who? How about George Bush? He's not Jewish.
Perhaps. Well,
how about Al Gore? He's not Jewish.
Hey, here's one thing I heard.
How about Billy Carter? He's not Jewish.
Not Billy Carter, and not Jimmy. You mean Jimmy?
Billy Carter, I said.
Oh.
Jimmy's next. Right. How about Ronald Reagan? He's not Jewish.
Well, here's the trick, though, Bill. When they become 33rd degree Masons, theoretically they go into a quasi-Jewish...
I've studied the Freemasons for over 26 years, and that is not true.
Well...
That is not true.
You think George Bush, Ronald Reagan have the little beanie on their head, and...
What little beanie? What are you talking about?
Well, you've seen them when they... And George Bush conducted... Jewish...
Let me tell you something. When I go to a Jewish friend's home to eat, I put on one of those out of the respect for the family while I have dinner with them.
All right.
Does it make me Jewish? I don't believe their religion. It's their religion. But I respect them because they're my friends. And when they come to my house at Christmas time, they respect my traditions.
Well, you do know that there's a...
Wait a minute. Don't tell me what I know. You tell me what you know. Okay?
Well, I just see these things by observation. So you see George Bush kissing the Wailing Wall with his beanie on, or yarmulke,
I've never seen George Bush kiss the Wailing Wall with a yarmulke on.
Oh, there's a picture of it. It's been in magazines in New York, See, one good thing about the Eastern newspapers is, New York and Cleveland, is that they have pictures of, people...
He's the head of our country. How do you know that he wasn't doing that just out of respect for the Israelis?
Well, that's true, too. But
when foreign leaders come to our country, they participate in our ceremonies. Does that make them Americans? Or Christians?
No, I agree. But look, George Bush did conduct Hanukkah services in the White House.
How do you know that?
Well, there's pictures of it in the Jewish magazine, the Sentinel.
Let me tell you something. George Bush never conducted Hanukkah services in the White House. The White House honors all religious holidays because it is an institution and a building that belongs to all American people.
something.
I guarantee you, he observes Christmas in the White House.
I hear what you're saying, but still, again, I've seen these pictures of George Bush with the rabbis in this, Hanukkah tradition.
You ever seen a picture of a rabbi in a Christian church at Christmas?
No.
I have.
Oh, okay, so they go there. Okay, I see where you're going with. All right.
Does that mean that they're Christians and that they're plotting against Jewry?
No, of course not.
Well, then how could you make all these leaps? George Bush is not Jewish.
Well, there might be something, because, see, one website by the Catholics says that Masonry was originally founded by King Herod and his followers.
No, it wasn't. Masonry came out of ancient Babylon, came out of ancient Assyria, Mesopotamia, Babylon, long before Israel ever existed, and the Jews were still running around chasing sheep through the
desert. Of course,
it
wasn't known as Masonry then, but think about it. Building King Herod...
Think about it. I've studied it for 26 years. I have been teaching people about Freemasonry and the esoteric, hidden fraternal orders, the Illuminati, if you will, all of these secret societies for years.
Right.
I'm the only one who has ever publicly revealed their secrets, their real secrets, to the whole world on the radio.
All right, but you know that King Herod built a magnificent temple. So he used lots of masons and carpenters, right? And therefore...
Anybody in those days who built anything used masons, but they were not Freemasons. Do you understand?
Oh, yeah, but they used the guild. Think about it. They want to...
I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to tell you right now that Freemasons did not come out of labor guilds. Freemasonry is nothing more or less than the modern extension of the ancient mystery schools. They would like for you to believe that they came out of the unionized builders' guilds in the medieval ages, and it's not true.
Okay, well, we do know that Jesus was probably condemned in the secret trial, not only at Caiaphas' house, but then maybe transferred to in the secret trial, not only at Caiaphas' house, but then maybe transferred to in the secret trial, not only at Caiaphas' house, but then maybe transferred to in the secret trial.
Cited. You said that you know what you just said. I'm saying, did you read it in the Bible? How do you know it? You said, you made a statement. You said, I know this. You said, we know this.
Well,
I don't know who we is, because I don't know that. It's certainly not in the Bible.
All right. You read the Bible verses in the Gospels indicate that Jesus was arrested by the temple guards and taken to Caiaphas' house. And then, depending on what gospel you read, then he's transferred, probably, it doesn't say back to the temple, but you read a lot of Jewish encyclopedias, and they suggest that possibly he was.
Are you kidding me?
No,
the Jews never suggest anything like that. They deny that he ever existed.
Oh, wait a minute. The Talmud itself says Yeshua was hanged on the eve of the Passover. It's in Sanhedrin.
And
people want to look at the
I have read all of that, and it is not in any reference to any person that they believe was Jesus, the Christian Jesus.
Well, they used code words because they didn't want to use them.
Oh, come on. As if you could understand code words if they did use them.
Well, a lot of the code words they use are very similar to the life of Jesus.
Like what code words?
Well, they use Balaam for Jesus.
Balaam is Satan. Balaam is Baal. Bel, Satan, Lucifer.
But then they refer to him as, dying when he was...
Baal was the golden calf. Moses came down from the mountain and found that they were worshiping the golden calf. Remember?
Right.
And they called the golden calf Baal.
Now, where do you get this? They called the golden calf Baal. It doesn't say that in the King James Bible or any other Bible.
No, it doesn't. They are interpretations. You have to go to the original Greek and Hebrew.
All right.
They also say in the Bible that we're going to reach the end of the world, doesn't it?
Right.
And that's not what it says in the ancient Greek and Hebrew. It says the end of the age.
Yeah, okay. Say Hey, I'm really interested in your golden calf thing. That really is interesting. You're saying in the original Hebrew, I have people that can translate.
Baal was the golden calf. That's right. B-A-A-L.
All right, Bill, good talking to you. I'll let you go.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. 520-333-4578. Don't you just live for conversations like that? Good evening. You're on the air.
Hey, Bill, it's Vince from Ohio. How you doing?
Hi, Vince. Doing good. I got your email, by the way.
Oh, did you? That's great. Yeah, it's good to hear you. You're coming in really well over here.
So when's your movie going to be on HBO?
The last time I talked to the producer, they were saying October, but I haven't seen anything lately, and I haven't spoken to the producer in the past for about a month.
Mm-hmm.
So they may have pushed it forward. I know they had a copyright problem with the title. The original title was Counterforce, and they changed it to Renegade Force now.
That's weird. Last time I checked, you can't copyright titles.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was copyright, but I know there was another. Maybe I explained that the wrong way. There was another movie done in 1988 called Counterforce, and they would have had a problem with that with that film company.
Okay.
But that's what I heard. So how's things going out there?
All going fine.
Yeah, that's great.
Just tired. I'm just tired today for some reason. There's no reason for it. I'm just tired. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I know I stayed up late. That could be it. I stayed up late last night to listen to Stan Deyo on Art Bell to see what he was going to say, and I'm going to probably stay up tonight and listen to Sean David Morton because I want to see how he has evolved. Let me put it that. I want to see how the son of Satan has evolved over the years.
Oh, is he? I'm not familiar with him. Is he he's a Satanist, then I take it.
He's a con man, is what he is. He's well, just listen to Art Bell tonight. You'll hear him.
Yeah, you know what, Art Bell? When I listen to his show, it gives me the same feeling when I was a little kid, and we used to watch Walt Disney TV show on Sunday nights or something. It gives me the same feeling. It's that phony baloney BS.
Yeah.
This guy lives in the X-Files and the science fiction movie channel.
Yeah, Spin and Marty used to make me puke.
What's that?
Spin and Marty.
Okay.
If you watched Walt Disney Fantasyland on Sunday night, you saw Spin and Marty, I'm sure.
No, I don't remember him.
The parentless children who lived on the ranch. Boys. They lived on a boys' ranch. Never mind. Go ahead. You saw Davy Crockett.
Oh yeah.
Just checking.
The one problem I see today is what I called in for was is that a lot of people are just basically lazy. They just don't want to go out and talk to other people, and a lot of the people that are in the so-called patriot movement, they have no problem, as I've said many times, and you and I have talked about it many times, is they have no problem going to the bars and spending, $20, $30, $40 drinking a night, but they go to a gun show, and if you have some sort of patriotic type organization asking for a $5 donation, and you know, out of the $5 donation, you still get like 6 newsletters a year, and it helps keep the organization going to fight bad gun legislation or so forth. You just can't. These people don't want to part with their money. It's amazing, but they want to sit and complain.
Yeah. The socialists give everything that they've got, millions and millions of dollars to their causes, billions even. Ted Turner just gave $1 billion to the United Nations.
Sure.
People, if you ask for donations, you can't get them from so-called patriots. And when you offer them good products, they won't buy those either.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of these...
They do not support their own causes, never have, and because of that, they're losing the battle.
Exactly.
It takes money to fight a war.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can't, it's bad enough you can't get a donation, and then you go ahead and offer them. They're actually going to get something. You just want them to buy some products from you. They're actually getting something. In return, you're taking a small, maybe 10, 20, 25% markup off of that. And they still, hem-haw around. They want to wheel and deal like they're at a gun show.
You know why? because they're secret socialists and they can't admit it to themselves. They want it for free.
Yeah.
That's socialism and communism, where you get it for free.
Oh, exactly. You know, it's the one thing that I did see being involved in the movie business is that you know, the movie business, although you do have the Ted Turners out there, you have the big, you know, Oliver Stone, you have big movie producers out there that would want to stop dead in its tracks any type of patriotic movie that or television show that would wake the people up or get patriotism, you know, in their gut, like if they saw a movie like Sergeant York or something, or a lot of the older movies from the 40s.
Yeah, you don't see any of that coming out of Hollywood today. Closest thing to it was Braveheart, which I was so happy to see.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. That was a big. I would have loved to see that in a modern setting, but that would have been something they would have stopped. They probably figured, well, the people were too stupid
to make the connection.
And they're right. Most people watched it because they're Mel Gibson fans, or the women like to see Mel Gibson. Many people totally missed the whole point of that movie. But what I'm saying is that the one problem a lot of people complain about, they don't like the movies at the movie theaters, they don't like what's on the cable. Well, you know, there's a lot of the independent film industry is growing by leaps and bounds. It is unbelievable. You can produce a movie for $50,000 or less and put it on 35mm film and get it edited just as well as any big budget movie, because of the fact that, number one, vanity is out there, and you can get actors to work for free. If they know they can get a credit, they will work for free, and there's plenty of them out there. Also, a lot of people that are in the support services, a lot of them don't work all the time, and they would work for credit, or they would work for you know, payment later if the film sells or gets distributed. And, you know, a lot of people can get involved in that process, and it's not that hard, because you can call your local, your state film commission, you can call your local film. Now, just about every major city, or every major city in the country has a film commission now. And a lot of it is because of a lot of these independent film companies that are popping up all over. And if people say they're patriots and they would like to see something like that, I would suggest they get on the internet or get on the telephone and start calling and contacting these different film people. And they can get involved in it. It doesn't take a large amount of money. Our film group is working to do a movie. We just did a movie called The Cutoff down at Screen Gem Studios down in North Carolina. Frank Capra Jr. even made a cameo in the movie. Now, this movie's an action movie. It doesn't really have anything to do with patriotism or anything like that. However, those type of movies can be produced at, you know, for a low budget, and I feel that that's one of the few ways that we're going to be able to educate people, because it's a shame that people want to be entertained. But, you know, if people don't get off their rears, and if they could just set a goal to educate 2 people a month, whether they're relatives, and those are the hardest to educate on these subjects, because there's always a prejudice involved, because, you know, somebody that's a mechanic in the family tries to tell them who they're educated and so forth at some college, you know, about what's going on in the world. A lot of people, they don't like to hear that. But just if a lot of the relatives don't like to hear that, because they always have these predetermined ideas of how the relative is, and usually it's not favorable. But if people could just decide that, hey, I'm going to go out and educate at least 2 people a month. I'm going to give them a magazine. I'm going to give them a Veritas. I'm going to give them a New American at least, or something. Or I'm going to buy them a cheap shortwave radio, or I'm going to tape something from a shortwave radio and stick it in their car stereo so they could listen to it. If people would just do that, that would make such a big improvement, because there are so many problems in this country right now that people are fishing around. Again, they know there's something wrong, but they don't know what it is. And your show is, I would say, is probably the best show on anywhere that educates and is also entertaining, but there's no BS involved. And I would think that your listeners and everyone should do that. Maybe take one of your shows, give it away, and start working on it right away, because there's not much time left.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to call anybody and tell them they want these kinds of movies because I happen to know a little trick. If all these people really cared about what Hollywood was producing, they'd buy the stock of the corporations that make the movies, and they'd make them make the movies that they want.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't do that because that costs money.
Exactly.
Oh, heaven forbid we should spend a nickel on our cause. Heaven forbid.
Yep. You're 100% right. But they.
Besides, I read the book. We all know how it comes out in the end. I hear that a lot.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
I read the book. I know how it comes out in the end. We win in the end, so we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
God helps those who help themselves.
Well, didn't Ben Franklin say that?
No.
I don't think that's not in the Bible, though, is that? I thought I heard that Ben Franklin.
Everybody says it's in the Bible. They read it in the Bible that they know how it comes out in the end, and they're going to win. They don't understand. They just don't understand. The people that are going to be there in the end are going to be the people that helped fight and win the battles, and the rest of them ain't going to be there.
That's true.
If it's all true.
Yes,
and I have to say that so that I'm not pushing what I believe on anybody else.
Well, I'll be keeping in touch. I'll let somebody else get on board. You guys are doing a real good job, and say hello to the family for me.
Thank you, Vince.
Yeah, you take it easy, Bill.
All right.
Thanks for calling.
Sure. Bye-bye.
520-333-4578 is the number, and it's your turn. Hello, it's your turn.
Good evening, Bill. This is Mike from LaBelle.
Hi, Mike.
I've got an FM 100 and a 20-watt amplifier, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't get around to buying a microphone until I started studying the schematic on it, and I found out that it needed one of these electric type mics. Is there anyone there that knows like a particular brand or whatever?
Why does it need an electric type mic? If you have a mixing board, you can use any kind of mic you want. I'm using a ribbon microphone, a BX44 that was made in the 1920s.
Well, I don't have a board. I can't afford that yet.
You're going to go directly into the transmitter?
Yeah,
okay.
There's an input in the front that says for microphone.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it requires well, on the inside of the schematic, it says that it feeds the microphone a 5+ voltage. And I found out through a friend of mine, he's an older gentleman, that if I would have plugged in any kind of mic, it would have either hurt the unit or hurt the microphone. But I was just wondering if anyone out there...
Call Ramsey.
Call Ramsey?
Call Ramsey. They made it.
Okay, I'll let you go.
They ought to be able to tell you exactly.
Thank you.
See, we're using a mixing board, so that's not a problem for us.
Yeah, and this idea about putting up transmitters, people they just got to do it.
Yeah.
Because the New World Order is basically saying that we own these people, and so far God hasn't told me that they own them yet. I'll let you go.
Okay. Thanks for calling. 520-33. Why did I do that? Just turn the mic off. Didn't even know what I was doing. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Let me turn the radio down here.
Okay. Please.
This is Bill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whoops. Oh my gosh.
Turn it off.
Turn
it off. You can hear through the phone.
Clevelandites. We're a suburb of Cleveland. I used to live in East Cleveland.
Yeah.
And that's also a suburb of Cleveland. It's about 4 minutes down the road.
Okay.
And we moved here in Cleveland Heights in 1960. I've been living here in the same house for 38 years. And anyway, we have a park in East Cleveland called Rockefeller Park. And it was named Rockefeller Park after John D. Rockefeller.
I would never have guessed in a million years.
They subsequently renamed it Forest Hills Park. I don't know why, but they did.
Okay.
And we used to play in Rockefeller Park. My dad used to take my brother and I to Rockefeller Park and play and have cookouts. We had a wonderful time. You might say that we played in the backyard of John D. Rockefeller, who made most of his money, as I understand it, in kerosene. And there was a pond in Rockefeller Park.
Mm-hmm.
A beautiful pond, a circular pond.
And he used to fill up his bottles full of that pond, and yeah, go ahead.
But anyway, it was a small pond. In the winter, it would freeze over, and everyone around here, some folks would ice skate on the pond.
Yeah.
But in the summer, there were beautiful swans in the pond.
Okay.
Oh, several dozen beautiful swans. And as the years went by, the neighborhood changed. And an element moved into the neighborhood that didn't have the respect, I don't believe, that they should have for the beauty of the park and the beauty of the pond and the beauty of the swans. And the swans began to be killed. Young people, teenagers, began to kill the swans. And they killed all the swans. They all died brutally. They were stoned, they were shot, they were stabbed, they were dismembered, and they're gone. And now the pond is no longer a pond. It's been filled in with dirt, and when you drive by there today, it's no longer what it used to be.
Yeah.
That's too bad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's happened all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is too bad. I remember in Hawaii, there was a section called Kaholo. And this was the poor section, all different races and people lived down there, but they were all poor. And so they decided to do something for these people. They built them a brand new condominium building. And I don't remember how they selected who was going to move into this condominium building, but it was beautiful. I mean, beautiful. Beautiful building with beautiful apartments in it and everything, and they gave it to these people. And they moved in, and 2 weeks later, it was nothing but junk. The pipes were torn out of the wall and sold for scrap metal content, and there was urine in all the hallways and up and down the stairs, and feces in the corners, and the holes in the wall, and windows broken out, and everything like that.
I lived in this house, Bill, for 38 years. And a few weeks ago, early Saturday morning, I don't know why, I stay up all night and I listen to the Hour of the Time and Art Bell and old Glenn Miller records.
We got a lot of those.
And it just hit me. I got an urge to see my old house that we'd left 38 years ago. So I drove down to East Cleveland.
I hope you didn't have the same experience I had when I did that.
Well, I was very disappointed.
I was overcome with such a feeling of sadness I couldn't believe it. And tears were streaming down my face.
Yeah. There was an oak tree in front of our house, a beautiful oak tree, and it was gone. And the house had been covered over with aluminum siding. The garage had been refurbished. It didn't look anything like it used to be. And it was very upsetting. It was too bad. I felt very, very uneasy in that neighborhood because East Cleveland has the highest crime rate in the state of Ohio, and it's 4 minutes from my house.
It's not always a good idea to go back.
Well, no, I suppose not.
It didn't.
But anyway,
didn't do me any good. Did me a lot of harm, as a matter of fact.
That's the good old days, Bill.
Yeah, it was, and I wish all these people who are lost within themselves and are responsible for a lot of what's happening today could have somehow lived through a part of that to see what a wonderful place this country was. Because it was absolutely the most wonderful place upon the face of this earth.
And it can still be again.
Can still be again, yes. Maybe.
Up to us, I guess.
It is up to us. Nobody else is going to do it for us. People live.
Okay, sir. Well, thanks a lot.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Bye.
520-333-4578. While we're waiting for a call, let's take a little break here and have a drink of water or something. As just for you, my friend.
There you go.
That's music. That's real music. Real music. Love that.
Yeah.
Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, Bill Doyle. It's Darlene from Eager.
Hi, Darlene. How are you?
Hi. Well, you've hit me right between the eyes with it again.
Really? How do we do that?
I am a relatively new listener to you. I mean, I started listening last week.
Uh-huh.
And I can see so much of what you're saying is true. And I am a sheeple. I have sat on my rear end for years. I have done nothing because I don't know what to do. You tell me to get up and do something, and I agree with you, but I still don't know what to do. What can you do for me?
Well, if you keep listening to this broadcast, you'll find out what you can do. Tonight, what we're asking is that the listening audience tell us what they think we should do. That's the whole theme of tonight's broadcast. Some of them elect not to do that, but we can't force them to come up with an answer. And generally, it's because they don't have an answer.
Well, that's where I'm setting, because I don't have an answer. I realize that we're in deep crap. I mean, we are in big trouble.
Yes, we are. And don't feel bad about being a sheeple, Darlene. All of us. All of us. We're sheeple for most of our lives. I wasn't born knowing any of the stuff that I talk about on this radio. It took me years to straighten my act out and figure out what the truth was, and then get off my butt and do something. And I'm doing something. Not everybody can do what I'm doing, but everybody can do something. And,
I'm willing to try anything. I mean, I spent my whole life listening to what other people told me I should do and what they thought was best for me and where I should be at. And it's taken me my whole life to finally become my own person. And I realize that we are in trouble, but I don't know what to do. So I'm really hoping you've got the answers because I'm still listening.
Well, we may not have all the answers, but we have some of the answers, and you'll be hearing those answers if you continue to listen to this broadcast. I can assure you. Now, we've been doing this for many, many years. There are people out there who started listening to this broadcast on May the 4th, 1992, which was the first time that I ever went on the air anywhere. And I've given them tons of things to do, and many of them have decided to do some of those things, and other people are still sitting on their butt, waiting for somebody else to do it for them.
Well, I know that I try not to let it affect me too much, but I am fearful. We have bought several guns. We've got lots of ammunition. We've got a lot of stuff, but we're one person.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hear that all the time, but you have to remember that I'm just one person, too. And Jesus Christ was one person. And Joseph Smith was one person. And Pontius Pilate was one person. And Caesar was one person. And Napoleon was one person. And Genghis Khan was just one person. And each of those people, whether they did good or bad for the world, had a tremendous effect upon the world because of what they did.
Well, maybe because they knew where they were going and where they needed to be. Maybe that's my problem, is that I'm totally lost.
Well, I think an awful lot of people are, Darlene. I think that when you said that, I think you spoke for an awful lot of people.
Well, I haven't missed a program since I started, and I don't plan on missing one, so I'm going to keep listening and see if you can figure out where I'm at.
Well, I don't know if I can figure out where you're at, but I think I can give you an awful lot of information to help you figure out where you're going and how you should be getting there, and how you can help those of us who really want to save freedom, not just for this country, but for the whole world. If we fall, the world falls.
Absolutely. And that is a very frightening situation.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you, and good night.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Darlene.
Okay, Joel.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for your listening pleasure, we have my daughter, Dorothy, whom you know as Pooh. She's going to play her harmonica for you. And if you want to put your book right up there.
There you go.
All right, baby.
I'll play Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Okay. Here we go. Bravo. What are you going to do for us now?
How about the Farmer in the Dell?
Okay. Bravo.
All right.
Beautiful. You have one more for us, maybe? What do you think?
Let me see.
One or two? You want to do one or two?
I'll do two more.
Okay.
Let me find one.
Okay. She's just learning to play the harmonica, folks, and she's reading the music from a book, and it tells her when to do what to make the notes, the way they're supposed to be. And it just looks like a bunch of, it's not sheet music, it's harmonica music. And it looks like a code book is what it looks like. It really looks like a code book. Looks like she went to the National Security Agency and stole one of their code books.
I authenticate.
Okay, I'll play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. This is for Allison if she's outside, if she's listening.
Oh boy, she'll love that. That's her favorite.
Okay. Wait.
Bravo. Okay, one more.
Okay.
What are you going to do now?
I'll do old Susanna.
Okay, that's a good one.
All right.
That's my favorite, in fact. Thank you, sweetheart.
You're welcome.
Thank you for giving us a wonderful recitation for the hour of the time.
You're welcome.
Okay, folks, we'll go back to the phone now, 520-333-4578. Oh, we missed something here. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to WBCQ, Monticello, Maine, USA. 520-333-4578 is the telephone number. Give me those knives there. No, the other ones. Most of the knives are gone, folks. While we're waiting for a telephone call here, I'll tell you what we got left, in case any of you still want to have one. And we're not going to do any prices or anything like that. I'm just going to tell you what we've got here, in case any of you have forgotten about it. We've got 2 Snuffy Smiths. We've got one Christmas knife with the Virgin Mary and little Jesus. We have Don't Blame Me, I voted for Bush. And we have one Tom Corbett Space Cadet knife left. Good evening, you're on the air.
Yes, Bill?
Yes.
Yeah, I was enjoying your show. It's informative. I wanted to ask you about this Freemasonry. Do you know, is Billy Graham, I've been hearing that he is a...
Billy Graham is a 33rd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite, of the Southern jurisdiction.
Okay, Scott, that's what
He is a bona fide member of the Illuminati.
Okay, so it is true. Okay.
Absolutely true.
Also, one more
He
thing.
is a counterfeit Christian.
Oh, absolutely. On the Pope now, is he involved in that?
Is the Pope himself involved in it?
Yeah.
I have no evidence that the Pope is a Freemason. I do have a lot of evidence that a lot of the Vatican staff and the people who surround the Pope in the Vatican are Freemasons and members of other secret societies.
Right, I've heard that too, as part of the bishops and everything.
Oh, it's absolutely true.
Because my wife and I were watching Satellite, this is several years ago, and we saw him, what do you call him when he's got the pontificate going with the audience or whatever.
I'm not Catholic, so I don't really know.
Okay, whatever it was, we saw him on TV, and he put his hands together in the most unusual manner. He used like the horned hand on one hand and put it across his other hand after he did this audience or whatever it was.
I would have to see that.
Right. I wish I'd had that on tape. It was unbelievable. It was sent a chill down us,
I would have to see that, because that is definitely is one of the signs.
Okay. In other words, he made, if I remember it right, I think he made a fist with his right hand and put the horns over it, But I'm sure it's the horns.
I would have to see it.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good to describe it to me.
Right. Exactly.
Because it is what you saw. You may have misinterpreted. May have been one of the rituals of the Catholic Church. I don't really know. But I would have to see it. It sounds very close to one of the ritual secret signs of several of the secret societies.
See, I work in the building trades, most of my life, and I've been working with these masons all my life, and they always try to put you in the jackpot or use the signals on you, But I just want to know if...
Well, you have to understand the building trade has absolutely nothing to do with Freemasonry.
Right, I heard you say that, and that was very interesting, because I had assumed that it started with the trades,
No, they want you to think that. They want you to think that, but that's not true. It came out of the ancient mystery religions of all of the ancient peoples, goes all the way back to the very beginning of the written history of the human race. And you can find these secret societies and esoteric rituals and mystery schools throughout the history of the human race, long before there was any builders' guilds, and that's just a cover that they use.
Well, I'll tell you, you brought to our attention that earlier tonight that they it was to break the monarchies and everything. You know, it's the New World Order. I mean, it just...
Yes, by giving the common man freedom in the United States of America, they demonstrated to men in nations all around the world that they could be free, something that it was unthought of, unheard of. Nobody would even entertain the thought. And the next thing that happened is populations began to rise up at the instigation and the leadership of an underground movement from these secret societies, and they toppled the kings and queens from their thrones. You see, as long as the kings and queens had the ultimate power of life or death and ownership of kingdoms, they could never even aspire to even hope to have their world utopian government that they have always aspired to.
Makes sense to me. It's kind of like a missing piece. Now I understand it more. Hey, it's a great show. I just started listening, and we'll be listening in the future.
Okay, great. And it's always in the guise of improving the lot of the common man or the poor man. And if you look at what happens to the common man or the poor man after they reach, you know, they get their power, it's absolutely amazing that anybody's still falling for this baloney.
The French Revolution.
The French Revolution, yeah.
Example.
Yeah. And you're hearing some of the buzzwords today as they try to implement the plan here. Now is the time, is one of them. Now is the time. Listen for that phrase. You'll hear it. You'll hear it, and you'll hear it from the most unsuspected people that you can imagine. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, Mr. Cooper.
Yes, sir.
I've been on your webpage and have admired it greatly.
Well, thank you. It took an awful lot of work, as you can probably imagine.
Now, Mr. Cooper, I have a videotape of Secretary Hamre, a reconstruction of our military command structure, and how they are going to use treaties to redo the command structure, and I have it straight from their mouths. I was wondering if you'd be interested in having a copy of that tape.
I was just going to ask you if there was any way that we could get a copy. I would love to have a copy.
And I paid. It was only showed one time on C-SPAN, and it was never shown again. For that purpose of not wanting the public to be aware. I read your document 7277, I believe it was.
It wasn't my document. It was written by the United States State Department.
Yes, sir. And they seem to be in that mold now where they are disarming us and also doing the command structure. As you're well aware, they have our forces spread out throughout 100 countries due to the UN mandate of peacekeeping.
Yes.
And one other thing that disturbs me greatly is that when they're shutting down these military bases in our countries, they are giving them to foreign countries. For example, in New Mexico, we have a German base down there now.
German Air Force Base.
Yes, sir. And
on United States soil.
Yes, sir. And also, I don't know if the public's aware of it, but out in San Francisco, they gave a base to Gorbachev for their Green Party.
Well, they did not give him the base. They did not give him the Presidio. What they did is deactivate the Presidio, but before the Presidio was deactivated, they gave him a building on the base to use as his headquarters.
Yes, sir.
And then when they deactivated the base, then of course he kept that as his headquarters.
Now, it seems to me that all this is not a coincidence.
Oh, no, not at all.
And it amazes me, why is no one talking about this?
I'm doing my best. I'm trying as hard as I can.
Do people realize that 60% of our commanders since 1992 have either been forced out or have retired and have been replaced by puppet commanders?
Oh, yes. Number one, they're members of secret societies. Number two, they are willing to go along with the New World Order and are actually, in fact, committing treason, going against their oath. And anybody who will not agree to these things or who does not belong to the secret orders is ripped and forced out.
This is unbelievable that we have congressmen. Well, most of the leadership is CFR members,
but it seems to me that you have enough in Congress that got elected in '94 that would throw out these leaderships like Mr. Jeffries, Mr. Chaffee from Rhode Island. These are all, like Mr. Chaffee's already decided that he's going to go along with the Cato Treaty. They're going to enforce by regulations to do away with all the jobs in this country and force the regulations on us to where all the jobs will definitely go overseas.
Yeah, I wrote this in my book many years ago that the goal for this country is a service economy. A service economy, pays the lowest wages of all.
How could they get past something like GATT and NAFTA? And then I remember Mr. James Gold, I believe he died over in London, and he come out right before he died, and he says American people have to be aware Fast Track is about one world government where they're going to set up a court of the Americas to decide your trade issues.
Yeah, we talked about that on this broadcast.
How could Congress that are elected by their people...
They don't care. They don't care about the people. They have contempt for the people.
Unbelievable, Mr. Cooper. You wouldn't think things like that would happen, but this has been going on for quite a few years, and they've seen a chance where they have all the puppets. Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, they have all the puppets now in our command structure throughout our Congress, and now they're going regionalism, where they're sticking people in to positions into each county throughout the United States.
Well, they can't lawfully do it. It goes against all the state constitutions. But where they can talk people into it, ignorant people who don't understand the law accept it and don't even realize that it violates the law.
Have the citizens been dumbed down that much, sir?
Oh, you better believe it.
I believe.
How many people do you know that have read the Constitution for their state, much less the Constitution for the United States? And if they have read it, how many of them do you think that have read it understand what they read?
I don't know, sir, but it seems like to me, lately I live in Baltimore, Maryland, and that they are putting military people into our police force now that have a military mind when they stop you. Myself, I got stopped for a seatbelt, and I said, why are you guys enforcing a seatbelt? And this is the honest God's truth. And I said, I think you're taking freedom of choice away from me. And I said, what if the president would decide tomorrow? By the way, he called for 2 backup police officers when I said that.
Oh, you scared him to death. You asked him a question.
He
probably peed in his pants.
And all 3 of them come, sir, and this is the honest God's truth. I asked each member there, I said, if the president tomorrow would do away with the Constitution, would you enforce that? And each one of them said, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's not unbelievable. They're little robotons. They are exactly the same mentality that Hitler recruited for his stormtroopers.
Well, I see where the UN is starting their own national youth movement.
Yeah.
The environmental movement all throughout the UN and inundating all these laws and these regulations into our country.
Hold on just a minute. I got to turn the tape over.
They're inundating all these UN laws and regulations for our country. It's like we've been dominated by the UN for the last 50 years, and anything they want to do in their committees and reports, then it becomes law here.
You just explained it yourself. If the United Nations is making resolutions and passing laws that we must follow, does it not follow that we are a vassal state of the United Nations and not a sovereign free people?
Yes, sir. It seems like to me they're going just like each member has 1 vote. We have a vote the size of Haiti, and whether we like it or not, then whatever they say goes, because we only have 1 vote.
Yeah, that's why they're getting rid of our military and they want to disarm us, because they know that there's going to come a point when when everybody will understand what's happening, and they don't want us to be able to pick up a weapon and take our country back.
Well, I happen to be on the UN web pages yesterday, and all over the radio broadcast, and all over their web page is talking about having a conference to do away with small arms and do it through the Department of Disarmament in this country.
Yeah, I've been warning people for many years.
Unbelievable. I feel like it's in God's hands now.
No, it's not. It's on my hip.
It's on your hip, sir?
Yes, sir. I got a 45 strapped to my hip right this moment, and I am prepared and willing to use it in defense of my freedom.
I just watched a movie.
Let me explain something to you and the listening audience. If you are not willing and ready to die for freedom, you cannot be free. You cannot have it.
You'll be a slave.
It cannot happen. You cannot be free if you are not willing to die for freedom.
Well, isn't it?
That's the way it works.
Isn't it said that what surprises me, sir, if you go through history from day one, anybody that has had freedom has always lost it. Don't the American people see that? That they have so much lost their freedom?
Well,
gotta fight for it every once in a while, sir.
Well, excuse me, nobody in this world has ever had freedom until the United States of America was created, and nobody has had it since. We're the only people upon the entire face of this earth who have ever been free. The Canadians did not ever have the freedoms that we have had. The English have never had the freedoms that we have had. No other people on the face of this earth has ever been free like the American people. So we are the first ones to ever be free, and we are the first ones who are going to give it up.
I can't believe that they would go down without a rebellion in this country, and this, sorry to say this, but it's still a flood to protect the freedoms and liberties of every individual in this country. It's time to tell them that we are rising up throughout this country little by little, one by one, and we are going to form a rebellion and take our country back, sir.
I've already done that. The United States of America is at war with me right this moment. Well, I am at war with the treasonous de facto government that has destroyed my constitutional Republican government.
Down here, sir, last week in Hebron Mountain, they had a little test. You might have heard about it. They had the Marine Corps down here. We went down and took actually videos and have the sheriff interview where they're going to practice of confiscating weapons.
Yeah.
And we have the sheriff on tape admitting to that fact. We'll send you that tape too, sir.
Great.
Thank you. God bless you, sir.
Well, God bless you too.
And God bless America.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. I'm physically and completely at war with the traitors who have destroyed this country. I am a member of the militia. We constitute the militia for the United States of America, the Second Continental Army of the Republic. So, it started a long, long time ago, ladies and gentlemen. You're just playing catch up. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
I want to thank you for what you're doing. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to hear you again.
This is the last voice of freedom in America.
It's been a long time. You ask what we do. I don't broadcast, but buy a lot of books. I've got a few of yours loaned out. By the way, I'm Joey from Virginia.
Hi, Joey.
Hi.
I buy your books. Me and my buddies share our audio and videotapes with people. Anybody that'll listen. I've talked to people in the checkout line. Whether they want to hear it or not. Sometimes disturb a lot of people.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm used to that.
Yeah, I've had some pretty extreme confrontations. It's kind of fun in a way, But I got turned onto this thing back in '74, and little by little, just learning what I could as time goes by, and trying to wake people up. That's my ability. But used to go to parties back in high school and talk about this stuff. And, of course, all my buddies just wanted to drink.
Well, see, I was stupid back in high school. I was one of the buddies that wanted to party.
I was 16 years old and talking about the New World Order. And you know, I wonder now about all those people and where they are with this. We're watching all this evolve right in front of our faces. And I know that I planted some seeds back then.
It's always amazed me that few people can see what's happening. And the reason they can't see it is they don't know what it's supposed to be. They have no idea.
What it's supposed, what things are supposed to be like.
Yes. They have absolutely no conception. They don't even know that they've lost a lot of their freedoms.
Well, they also have no conception of what things are.
They do know that something's wrong, and they do know that the government is dangerous because they're scared to death of the government. They are fearful.
You're right. You know, including myself. You know, I've worked for 26 years to try to wake people up. I mean, this is my commission in life.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like I said, whether they want to hear it or not, but anymore, I mean, so many people just refuse to even look at it.
They will until it begins to hurt them terribly, and that time is not far off.
Right.
It's very, very close.
Well, I would just urge everyone out there that's listening.
In fact, it's so close I can smell it. I can smell it.
I would urge everybody out there that's listening to just, you know, just keep pounding at it and irritate some people. You know, try to make people laugh. But try to get the word out every day.
Doyle went to the supermarket. They thought he was me because he was wearing his weapon on his hip. One of the checkout boys asked one of the other ones, said, "Is that a real gun?" What did he say, Doyle?
Of course, that's Mr. Cooper.
Is that right?
But of course it's a real gun. It's Mr. Cooper.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it is. It is hilarious. In a country where we are given the right to keep and bear arms, people see you wearing a pistol or carrying a rifle.
Must be a nut.
And they get scared.
Like that rent-a-cop.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But go ahead.
Well, you know, I heard earlier caller say something about hanging, and you know what? I call in a local radio show periodically, and I actually mentioned that last week.
Mentioned what?
Well, that you know, the radio talk show host was asking what we thought we should do.
Yeah.
With this Clinton situation, and of course, you know, I think the man's got a right to his private life. But
I don't believe that there's a crime between consenting adults where sex is concerned. I do believe that certain things are immoral, but that's between that person and God.
Well, but he also did it on the clock, and that doesn't seem quite right. You know, I'd have been fired for that.
Well, you might have if you'd have got caught, but I'm telling you right now that whether it's right or wrong, there's Americans doing it all across this country.
Right.
The hypocrisy is amazing.
My comment was that the man's done enough.
See, it's not the sex that we should be upset about. They're consenting adults. They were both over the age of consent. It's the lies under oath. Right. And the treason that's being conducted accepting campaign funds from a foreign nation whose ideology is alien and enemy to the United States of America, a communist country, and selling them and giving them secrets.
Everybody knows it.
Military secrets.
Mm-hmm. Everybody knows it. I don't understand why it's not completely obvious to everyone. But if we started hanging traitors, like it's supposed to be.
Well, we're Americans and we can't do that.
Right.
You know why we can't do that. And see, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm telling you that if we're going to get somebody for a crime, first you have to have the evidence they committed the crime.
Right.
You must indict them. They must have a fair trial and be judged by a jury of their peers. Then if they're found guilty, they must be given the penalty prescribed in the law.
Right.
If American citizens start running through the streets, executing people, then I got to tell you something. You better go back and study the French Revolution. You don't want that to happen.
Oh, no.
You do not want that to happen. I'm telling you that I can see it coming, but I don't want it to happen, and I don't want anybody to do it. I want things to be done under the law. I want a constitutional Republican government restored, and I want traitors arrested. I want them held for trial. I want them tried by a jury of their peers, and if they're found innocent, apologize and let them go home. If they're found guilty, then they should suffer whatever penalty the law prescribes for that particular crime.
I'm definitely in favor of doing it in a lawful manner.
Good.
It'll never go through the Senate because so many of them are complicit.
Yeah. You should have seen the look on the local FBI guy's face when I told him that someday he may have to stand as the defendant in a trial being tried for treason for what he has done as a member of the FBI, for what they did at Waco, Texas. He says, oh, I wasn't there. I said, I'm sorry, sir, but if I was a member of an organization, whether I was there or not, and that organization did that, you would arrest me, try me, and execute me under the conspiracy laws as being just as guilty as those who were there that did it. And I'm telling you right now, that same law applies to you, and the blood drained right out of his face.
Well, bet. Bill, I got to tell you, man, it's just so good to hear you again.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good to be here.
It's good to have you.
Well, you better listen to me while I'm here, because I got to tell you right now, they want me dead so bad they can taste it, and one of these days they're going to come up here to do that job.
Well, I've been listening. I listened to you in WWCR. I listened to you. I think it was 99.55. Some frequency after you left WWCR. I went through pain.
Yeah, I was on 9.955.
Yeah.
That's where I was at.
Reception was not so good, but I often listened anyway.
That's because I was educating Castro, and he didn't want to hear it. So he was jamming me. It was not just me. That's a Cuban freedom station, and everybody on there is telling Castro all about the evils of socialism and communism, and so he jammed it.
Well, things got pretty nasty last Thursday night. You got squeezed out here.
Well, that had nothing to do with jamming or squeezing out. There was a tremendous magnetic storm that just wiped out all communications everywhere.
Well, I was getting some really heavy Spanish right above you, and actually right below. Somebody was coming in really, really strong. But
they used to do that to me on WWCR too. When I get going strong and develop a big listening audience, they'd put two strong stations on each side of me and try to wipe it out that way. But WWCR was so strong it didn't work, and WBCQ is so strong it's not going to work either.
Well, I will listen to you as long as you're there, buddy.
Okay.
And I want to ask all the listeners.
I'll be here as long as I'm alive.
Buy Bill Cooper's book and give it away every chance you get. Thanks for being there.
Well, thanks for your call.
Thanks for calling.
520-333-4578 is the number. And you want to... Good evening, you're on the air.
Hi, Bill. Rick in Ohio. How are you?
Hi, Rick. Good.
Listen, we've been, Barbara and I have been sitting here talking about what...
We got your card. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Just got it. Got it today.
Ready.
We've been talking a little bit about your issue tonight, and I want to share with you and the listeners a couple of things that developed in our life. I know we talked a little bit about this at the conference when I met with you and talked to you. You know, the long and the short of what's happened to us, you know, we've been through a lot of turmoil and problems personally and professionally, as you know, and I don't know, I think you reach a point where looking at who the enemy is one of those events that kind of settled in on us.
Sobering, isn't it?
Yeah. We kind of view the mystery Babylon religion, we view the enemy as a spiritual force. We know that we have to be active physically, we have to be active socially we have to be active, personally proactive, very active. But we also know that we're fighting a war that we believe is spiritually based or spiritually driven. We talk about the forces that are at work, and we talk about terms like good and evil, or good and bad, or plus and minus, or however we want to define it. But in the end, we had to make a decision about where to draw force or draw strength from. But we came to believe that we can't fight a spiritual war with material tools alone.
If you're not spiritually armed.
Yeah. Well, we're not spiritually armed in the material world. However, we have, at least in our lives anyway, and I don't know if maybe in some of the listeners this has occurred, but using or getting into a spiritual state, I guess, has helped us greatly. In that regard, we've drawn strength from that. And we basically look for marching orders, and then we get busy. Similar to what you said, that you read the Bible, you read the words of Jesus Christ, you say your prayers, but then you get busy.
Yes.
And you begin working. And sometimes you don't know where you're going. It's that feeling like you can't see the forest for the trees. Yet you feel a guiding hand that moves you through to some conclusion. And I want to share something with you. Remember I told you about all that bar association stuff that was going on?
Yes.
Well, today I got word that all charges were dismissed.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we've been, I did exactly what you suggested. We mounted an assault. We went back after it aggressively. We didn't sit back and do nothing, but we did pray on it, and we asked for the wisdom and understanding to do the right thing, to do at least in our spiritual framework, God's will. And then we just got busy, and we just kept working on it, similar to the way I see you do, and your tenacity to continue, even though sometimes you don't even know where you're going and what you're doing, but you know that if you're not doing it right, that you expect to not succeed in that direction, but you don't quit.
Right.
You continue on.
That's correct.
And I think that's, if there's anything that I want to impart to the listeners, it's not to give up. It's to continue to move through space and time aggressively and positively with a sense of who you are and where you are, but in proper perspective. I think if all of us...
you must put all your trust in God.
Yes.
With no doubts whatsoever.
No doubt. And then move forward and know that you'll be where you are supposed to be, doing what you are supposed to be doing at the time you are to be doing it, and have absolute confidence in that.
Yes, you must.
And never stop. Never hesitate. Just continue on. It doesn't mean you don't get depressed and you don't get confused, but...
Yeah. If you can't do that, then you're lying about your faith in God.
Right. Right. And I think there's a tranquil feeling about that. I talk to clients all the time about that, and they come in so confused and disturbed, and I say, why are you so anxious? And they say, well, because you have all these problems, I have all these worries. And now you're dumping on me and telling me about this New World Order business. I said, wait a second. Are you a believer in something? I ask them if they have a religious affiliation, and if they say yes, I try to pin it down a little bit, but I do say, do you have faith? And they say yes. And I say, well, wait a minute. If you have faith, then you must trust in that belief, right? And they say, well, yes. I say, well, if you're trusting in that belief and you're not trusting in yourself, why are you anxious? What's to be anxious about? And they kind of look at me with a quizzical look on their face and say, gee, maybe I don't have as much faith as I thought.
At least they're honest.
Yeah, at least they're honest.
At least they're honest.
That's the beginning.
Yeah, I never could figure out how somebody would stand in front of me and tell me that they were a Christian, but they couldn't help me because they might get on somebody's list.
Yeah.
And I'd look at them and say, are you afraid to die?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. How can you be a Christian if you're afraid to die? How can, we're not trying to push anybody's religion down anybody's throat. We're just talking about this particular part of religious belief. If you truly believe and trust and put your faith in God, how in the world could you be afraid to die?
Right.
I would be afraid to live.
Right. That's exactly right.
If I couldn't trust in God, I would be afraid to live.
Exactly. That's precisely correct. And, you know, all religion seems to boil down to three basic tenets, at least on the side of the ledger that we believe we are on. Like I said, we oppose the ACLU and others because we believe they're on the other side of the ledger. We call the negative, call it what you want. We're on the positive side. I don't know. We have different...
Yeah, don't you think it's strange that an organization that pretends to be on the side of law and order and to protect the constitutionally protected rights of the people would actually, in their literature and in their speech, deny the existence of the Second Article and Amendment?
Right. It's a fraud. They're a fraud.
They are a fraud.
So many people.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. I look at this reference frame and I say, look, there's three basic building blocks of spirituality, and when I ask folks, I say, well, do you have a belief? I'm not trying to pin them down to a particular belief. I want to know if they have a belief, and the belief all boils down to three basic elements: faith, belief in that system, hope or trust, which means giving yourself over to it completely, and then charity, or loving this being, this creator, this God, if you will, above all, and loving your neighbor as yourself. And my gosh, that's the golden rule, and we do that by obeying and entering the material world in stewardship and helping one another. It's just, I mean, if we all did that, we'd have a much better world, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you see people spinning in cul-de-sacs, and I think one thing I would encourage the listeners to do is turn off the idiot box and the talking heads, and do a lot more reading, thinking, listening, helping those who are trying. I think you made a good point when you said a very small percentage actually stand up and do something is discouraging to me, because I know what you're saying. I mean, maybe you've got 1% of the listeners who will really send.
But you see, that sounds like such a small number, but that's really all it takes, because the rest of them are not engaged in the battle.
Right.
They're not there. They are not a threat to either side.
That's correct.
They are the flotsam and jetsam of any conflict.
Yeah,
they are at the mercy of the conflict and of the victor.
There is sand we're sifting. If we find one pearl in the sand, if this message reaches one pearl that can make a difference, it's worth it. It's worth it. I know you've got to get tired sometimes.
Well, I'm exhausted today. I've already talked about that. I don't have any energy level at all right now. It's like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's about 0.1.
And 0.1. Let me leave you with one comment on a thought on this Ken Starr.
Okay.
I've thought a lot about this. We've talked about this in our little group here in northeastern Ohio that gets together and talks about all these things. But this Ken Starr, to me, he works for the Illuminati. He works for Clinton. He works for these people. He protects, he shelters, he harbors, he shapes. I mean, they're now down to shaping this attack on the presidency of the United States into a manageable crisis, which is couched in sexuality. It's so obvious. I mean, the main issues have been left on the sidelines, and you pointed it out a number of times in the broadcast here the last few days. This business with China, the secrets, the real treason that's not even talked about, the involvement of Hillary Clinton and the things she was involved in right before the Murrah building was detonated.
Yeah, financing.
Was aware of it, that were buried, the shredding of evidence, the gathering of evidence, and the losing of evidence. This is a staged event. This guy's a player, and I don't know, anybody who can't see that at this point with what's going on in the media, to me, is just completely missed
Mr. Boat here.
I think Hegel is smiling from ear to ear wherever he's
Got to
at.
be grinning from chin to chin.
He's so happy. Ooh, look, boy, I never knew it would work this well when I wrote it, but looking down there, they make me proud.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, listen, I wanted to ask you, did you understand exactly why I told you to stop playing the game with the Bar Association and attack them viciously?
Yes. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
It was raised on contract, and an issue and a threat was brought about using their own systems, which you and I graciously call the federal court system, against them. Interfering with the right to contract.
Yeah.
I have a right as a sovereign citizen of the United States of America. I hold the highest office in the land, not the bar.
Yep.
And I have a right to contract with my clients, and their interference with that right gives me the right to go into federal court and enjoin them from doing so. I think that sent a chill down from the spine.
I bet it did too.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. It took a while for it to sink in, Bill, but you plant these seeds, and like I say, we keep you and your family in our prayers every day. We're at war. I agree with you. We are at war.
Yes, we are.
We hope that it remains a non-shooting war, but and I know how you feel about that. I do feel that that's what they want. They want us in the streets shooting one another so they can enslave us. I think if we call their bluff and we educate enough people on the use of the dialectic, if people begin thinking in dimensional thought, three-dimensional thought instead of one-dimensional thought, if they can think and understand thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, creating problems, destabilizing, and planting seeds and controlling. If they can do that successfully, they can think through these problems and not play into it. You hit it right on the head with Y2K. It's not Y2K. That's not the issue. It's how people react to the Y2K problem that's the issue.
Absolutely.
So, hey, your prayers are with you. Hang in there. You guys are doing a great job. I want you to keep the faith, and we'll try to round up as many listeners as we can. And hey, listeners, support this effort. Support this effort. There's no other voice out there that is doing what Bill and Doyle and Bill's family is doing and are willing to sacrifice as much as they are for this cause. With that, I'm gonna let somebody else come in. Bill?
Well, thank you, Rick.
God bless you. Take care of yourself and take care of the family.
And our love to Barbara.
You too.
And thank you for calling. Yeah, folks, there is a rule in war. Whoever decides they are going to take the defensive side of the war has lost the battle when they make that decision. They've lost. They've lost the war, as a matter of fact. Good evening, you're on the air. There are times when you must assume a defensive position temporarily, but that cannot be the method that you decide to fight the war. You must attack, because that's the only way that you can ever win. Good evening.
Hello, Bill. This is Ron from Ohio.
Hi, Ron.
Hey, about a year ago, I sent you a package about this team-based management deal. If people would only open up their eyes and look what's happening in the factories, then they would know what's happening on with this country, too.
Doyle.
And
you have the microphone, Doyle. Doyle knows all about that team management baloney.
Well, it's for my job because of not signing my name to this piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to fight this for about a whole year. I sent you all the information. I don't know if you received it or what, but I've been...
Sue them.
Huh?
Sue them. Go on the attack. You weren't listening to me a few minutes ago.
Well, I've been attacking them.
No. You're not attacking them until you sue them.
Well, I've been trying to. Bar Association won't even back me up on this either.
Screw the Bar Association. When I go to court myself. I don't take a lawyer with me. That's a way to lose.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying different ways here. But with my radio station, too, trying to wake up people. I spent all my money and everything trying to wake up the people in this area. They don't realize that this big factory is getting set up for a safe labor camp. They have their own electric power. And about 10 miles down the road, there's a big steel factory, which I believe they have maybe a microwave oven in there that's going to kill people, too. You know, it's possible.
Well, now don't go off the deep end.
I'm not going off the deep end, but it's kind of funny how things are happening because there's been a lot of deaths at the steel factory here too.
Well, what you need to do is find documentation and proof, not make assumptions based upon what might turn out later to be not real logical thinking.
Right. It's understandable. I deal with truth and facts. That's how I expose everything. And through this whole thing, I've been researching since '92 on this team-based management, and I asked all the lawyers, I asked everybody I've been around, even with the companies, telling them that they might be making the biggest mistake. And through this whole deal, I exposed 13 members of Northwestern Ohio of the Illuminati.
Well, good for you.
You know, and I'm being watched quite a bit. I have helicopters come over my house and hovered and everything, but I am still out there fighting because what is more important is being free because God gave us that gift.
You're right. That's the most important thing in the world. If you're not free, then nothing else can be for you.
That's right. And I'm glad that you're back on the air. I missed you for about a whole year, you know, but still I play your tapes on my radio station.
Good.
And they're trying to circulate, trying to figure out where the transmission's coming from. They never figure it out.
Good for you.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. My whole life has changed since they tried to draft me into Vietnam.
Well, good for you.
You know, and I've been a rebel, and I'm still going to be a rebel. I'm not going to go no prison. They're going to have to put a bullet in my head before they take me to prison because I got a friend that's in prison. And he's been set up for murder because of this establishment.
Well, I can't comment on that because I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
Well, you know John from Michigan?
Oh, yeah, I know him.
He's my friend.
John couldn't have killed anybody in his whole life.
I know.
I know John. John was a gentle soul. There was no way that John could have ever hurt anyone.
I know that.
It just could not possibly have happened.
Yeah, they did a lot of crooked things in that, and I've been doing a lot of research into that area too, trying to help him out, but he's up in northern Michigan someplace now.
Yeah.
And he's still alive as far as I know.
Well, that's good.
You know, but
yeah, John.
I can't believe the people.
John was framed. John was framed. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Anybody who knew John at all would know that John couldn't possibly hurt anybody, and it's it's I just absolutely am blown away by what they've done to him.
Yeah, me too. But I just have my prayers for him, and maybe we'll see him someday, because we need him on our side.
Well, he is.
Get the message out there, you know.
I'm sure he's educating a few people in prison.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think he is, unless they got him drugged up all the time.
Well, who knows? Well, listen, we got to get out of here because we're up against the wall now.
I think you should do a show on this team-based management deal.
Well, maybe Doyle will. Doyle's the expert on that. Listen, I got to let you go.
Okay.
Take care. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
What's the matter?
Say goodbye.
Oh, okay. God, you scared me the way you ran in here. I thought something was wrong. I was ready to pull my pistol out of the holster. Okay, everybody, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody, and God bless each and every single one of you.
Cinderella and the Bella have the party lights down low. Listen to the radio. Love is on the air tonight, and it's on a coast-to-coast hookup. Love is everywhere tonight. Let us go the atmosphere. Each station to us the nation. Whatever's all coming through. So you just wait for me to network the radio for you. You never pay for the mix of songs out of your alley. You might sound like Green to her, but suppose you like Rudy Valley. It's never better than you. What you do, yeah, nothing's like a bomb, yes,
You've been listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. We are now, ladies and gentlemen, being carried by many, I don't know the exact count, but I'm getting email messages and letters from all across the country and Canada. We are now being carried by a whole lot of low-power micro broadcasting FM stations all over the place. Don't forget to tune in again tomorrow night to the Hour of the Time, right here on WBCQ, The Planet.